Live on a Thursday, the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. The 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Live video on the Twitter X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Follow, subscribe, be a part of the show. Let's do this thing. Phillies lose yesterday in the nightcap against the Cardinals. They've lost the series 2 out of 3. It's the first time they've lost a home series in a long, long time. Wanted to get into the night game a little bit. We talked about the game they won yesterday with Romano getting the save, Kirkering coming in and doing a good job in the 8th. 2-1 game there, but got to get into Aaron Nola at some point today. Certainly want to talk about him and what happens if he can't turn this thing around. Certainly turns into a conundrum for the Fightins. We'll also continue to look at possibilities, optionality for the Sixers. Daryl Morey was on another podcast yesterday and really added to the conversation. We'll get into that. What did Morey say? Stick around and find out. That's coming up today. Keith Smith at 3 o'clock. We'll talk to him about the Sixers offseason, what's ahead, Joel Embiid. We had Nick Nurse on the show on Tuesday. And if you missed our interview with Nick Nurse, you can go to the YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show and listen to that. I think the thing that a lot of people have been asking me about anyway, you guys set the show. Whatever you ask me about generally is how we kind of go. A lot of people asking me about the Eagles' schedule, and there's a bunch of stuff in this schedule that stick out. Now, the schedule, pretty much yesterday, by the time we got off the air, we knew most of the Eagles' schedule. But it was official last night, and the schedule that we had on the radio for you yesterday was the schedule that was released. I don't think any of the games they announced yesterday were wrong. But I will say, in looking at this schedule, just quickly kind of going over things, it's a brutal schedule. I mean, it is a tough schedule. The NFC East has a brutal road this season. And there's a lot of quirks in this schedule that when you look at this thing, you are looking at, listen, this team's pretty good, but it is a gauntlet. They do not have a back-to-back home game the entire season. Now, they play back-to-back on the road twice this year. So it's not like it's crazy where they have these 3-week-in-a-row road things. They have a couple of games on the road, and they're back-to-back on the road at the Giants on a Thursday and then at Minnesota on a Sunday. So they do have like a 10-day break in there, and you're playing the Giants, who are not supposed to be a very good team, on a Thursday night. So a short week road game at the Giants, followed up 10 days later at Minnesota. So your back-to-back home games, road games there aren't all that tough. Late in the year, you've got to go to Washington on a Saturday, and then 8 days later follow up on the road at Buffalo. Now, I haven't seen a schedule in my life. Maybe it's happened. I don't know that it's ever happened, though, Josh. Has anybody found this little nugget? The Eagles will play the team that represented their conference in the championship game in 3 consecutive weeks. They will play Washington, Buffalo, and Washington. Those are the teams that played in the AFC and NFC championship games. They will play those teams in 3 consecutive weeks. I mean, I don't know that it's ever happened before. So that, at the end of the year, back-to-back road games at Washington, at Buffalo, and then you play Washington again. Now, the possibility does exist that those 3 games don't mean a lot. I mean, you could get to Week 16. Washington could stink. They could be out of the mix. Buffalo could have the AFC wrapped up, and I would imagine that Buffalo has the AFC East wrapped up. I don't know that they'll have the number 1 seed wrapped up by then. But I think Buffalo is about as heavy a favorite to win their division as any team in football, right? I can't think of a team that is more of a favorite to win the division that they play in than the Buffalo Bills are in the AFC East. There's not even a team that is close to them. Miami, New England, and the Jets. You could throw Benny and the Jets in there too, and I don't think they're going to be competitive in that AFC East. I think Buffalo, by the time December 28th comes around, I should say, I think Buffalo is way ahead in the AFC East. It just, how far are they up or where are they in the AFC conference? Their division is so light. They get to play the Jets twice, Miami twice, and New England twice. They could win 6 games right there and be way ahead of the AFC field. So we'll see. But back-to-back home games, road games. They do not have any back-to-back home games the entire season. It is a home, road, and by the way, they play 8 home games and 9 road games this year because of the 17-game schedule. It flips every year. The NFC gets the extra game the one year. The AFC gets the extra home game the next year. And last year, if you remember, the Philadelphia Eagles were on the road. We're at home in the Brazil game. So that was the year that they had the 9 games. So you don't get 9 home games last year, and you don't get them again this year. You are home, away, home, away, home, away, away, home, away, home, away, home, away, home, away, away, home. So there's just no rhythm. Like, you can't get it's every other week you're home. So you tailgate fans out there, if you're somebody who likes to just go for the tailgate lot, you're not even getting that 2 weeks in a row, I should say. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Mike, the schedule is brutal, says Shaner. Angry Shaner today in EHT. He says the last 3 weeks are silly. I know we are the big dogs in town, but why did the NFL do this? The wild card team, and if healthy, we have a shot. He thinks the Eagles are a wild card team. He says, I'm in at 10-7. So lock you in there, Shaner, for a 10-7 season. Look, Sal Paolantonio tonight, our annual day after schedule conversation. He'll join me at 5 o'clock tonight. Sal Paolantonio right here on the Sports Bash. It's a brutal schedule. And I'm going to tell you this. Look, I know many people will disagree with me. I think Dallas is significantly better just because they're healthier. Look, Dallas won 12 games the year before, or 13, right? Where did they go, 12-5 or 13-3 the previous season? And last year, they went 7-10, due in large part, in my opinion, is because they had a lot of injuries. And the quarterback, whenever your quarterback gets hurt, I expect the season to kind of fall apart on you. What was Dallas the year before?
Dallas had 3 straight seasons of 12-5.
12-5, 12-5, 12-5. So I'm not off my rocker to think if they are, with their quarterback, healthy, that they could be a team that is significantly better than a 7-win team.
Yes, significantly better than a 7-win team.
Although yesterday you said you didn't think so.
I mean, listen, I still want to see, 1, no Mike McCarthy. It's Brian Schottenheimer. 2.
Wasn't that supposed to be a positive to get rid of McCarthy?
Well, yeah, I thought you think you downgraded it. You're getting rid of McCarthy is supposed to help get you deeper into the postseason potentially, but you went from a guy who at least has a ring on his finger to a guy that has never been a head coach in his life.
Yep.
You lost to Marcus Lawrence, big loss on the defense. You add in a potentially toxic guy in the locker room in George Pickens. There's a lot of question marks around Dallas, but if you were to tell me right now, hey, I'm telling you, Josh, Dallas is going to win 10 games.
I said minimum.
I'm not going to say
I think
that
getting
crazy.
the quarterback back is a flip of
3 wins.
Yeah, I think getting Dak Prescott back and replacing Cooper Rush as your quarterback for most of the season flips your record from 7-10 to 10-7 minimally. I'm just saying on the low end, I think they at least flip their.
Listen, I can be objective and say I think it's a very fair assessment. I just don't see it happening personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's insane to say that because again, when you're going from a guy who is a above average backup in Cooper Rush to a guy who is a potential top 10, top 12 quarterback in the league, that's a significant upgrade.
All right, so you open up with a team that I think will be significantly better. And listen, Are they going to be a Super Bowl team, the Dallas Cowboys? Maybe not. At Kansas City. I mean, speaks volumes right there. That team has been the best team for almost a decade now, it feels like. I mean, at least the last 5 years. You're at Kansas City in week 2. So you're starting off the season, whether you like Dallas or not, with a division game. The defending Super Bowl runner-up. The team that took you to basically the final series of the game in week 3 in the Rams. At Tampa Bay. We all know how that's gone for them in the last couple of years. That has been a nightmare spot for the Philadelphia Eagles. Home against Denver, playoff team from a year ago. And if I told you that Denver might be one of the weaker teams on your schedule, right? That's fair.
It's definitely fair because I think that there's always that question of, okay, what happens? There's a sophomore slump for a guy coming off a good rookie season.
Right, and that's a team that made the playoffs last year, and I'm
Correct.
saying they might be one of the weaker games that you have on this schedule.
They did not make major upgrades offseason. It's not like they went and, like, they're not like the Bears where they were like, we have specific needs and we're going to address them. Boom. Like, they didn't really do that. Denver kind of was more a little tweak here, a little tweak there.
They're big, hey, we hope to have everybody take a step forward in year number 2.
The young guys progressing.
Still a playoff team from a year ago.
Yep.
We'll see what ends up happening. They got Bo Nix, second-year quarterback. Their defense is pretty good, too. They got a pretty good defense, Denver.
Patrick Surtain, second. He's very good.
Mm-hmm. So that is your first 5 games of the season. At the Giants, at Minnesota. So 2 of your weaker opponents on the road, back-to-back weeks. Then the Giants again. That's your first 8 weeks. Dallas, at Kansas City, home against the Rams, at Tampa Bay, Denver, at the Giants, at Minnesota, home against the Giants. Of that group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams of 8 made the playoffs a year ago, plus you have Dallas in the mix. Now, I think Dallas could be a playoff team this year, and Minnesota might not be. I think everybody's popular pick to not make the playoffs is Minnesota. Most people didn't think they were a playoff team last year because of Sam Darnold. So let's not just count them out. If J.J. McCarthy is competent, they won 13 games last year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
My only problem with Minnesota is McCarthy's coming off a pretty serious injury. And we know that for a lot of quarterbacks, that first year back from an injury is a bit hit or miss.
Luckily for him, he did suffer that injury way back in training camp.
That's true.
So he has way over a year that he will have before he plays. Now, you're right about the fact, I'm not saying it's a fait accompli that he steps in there and he just rips it up. I'm just saying the rest of their team, I think we're selling a little short.
The rest of the team is very good.
The reason they won 13 games last year is in large part because Sam Darnold played very well, and that was a surprise. But Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, a very good defense.
T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end.
Absolutely. They have a good defense, good defensive coordinator, and weapons. Now, is J.J. McCarthy able to step in there and take them from a 13-win team and keep them in a double-digit win range? That'll be a big question.
Yeah, and I think that's why, for me, I think they take a step back. They're probably not going to win double digits this year. If they do, it might be only 10 games. You know, because if you look at also the win totals, Mike, the only teams right now of all the NFL teams, I don't know if you want to guess this or not, but that are, according to the odds makers,
Yeah.
there's 6 teams that are listed as 10.5 or higher.
Okay.
For their over/under.
I'll take a
6.
stab. I'll take a stab of teams that are projected to win 10 or more.
Yes.
Kansas City.
That's 1.
Buffalo.
Yep.
Baltimore.
Yep.
Philadelphia.
Yep.
Detroit.
That's correct.
How many?
There's 1 more.
One more would be One more team to win 10 or more games. I'll go Washington.
Washington is not there.
Were they 9.5?
Washington is 9.5.
The other team to win 10?
I'm surprised by this one, I'll be honest.
Green Bay?
Green Bay is at 9.5.
Okay, so I'm sniffing around this one here. You're surprised by it? I don't think it's a South team unless it's Tampa. I don't think it's a West team. It would be the Rams, maybe San Francisco. I know people like San Francisco. Their schedule is statistically one of the easiest in the league. Is it San Francisco?
It is.
Wow.
They're at 10.5.
Their schedule apparently is one of the easiest in the league. Yeah.
There's all of the NFC North teams are 9.5 or less as their win total.
Including the Bears?
Including the Bears.
So the Bears have an over-under of 9.5.
Actually, it's not 9.5. They're 8.5.
Okay.
But I was saying 9.5 or less.
Well.
So, like, Minnesota is 8.5. Bears are 8.5. Packers are 9.5.
Who's got the lowest? What's that? Let me guess. Who's the worst team in the league? I would have to say they are going with would it be? Could it be? Would it be the Saints? I don't even know who's the quarterback for the Saints. Who's the quarterback for the Saints right now?
I'm assuming it's going to be Tyler Shuck.
Jeez. Oh, shucks.
Well, that's why I might want to take the under on this one, Mike, because they're actually not the lowest. They're 6.5 right now.
So it's got to be either them.
It's not them.
Okay, so it's not them. I was going to say my guess would have been either them, maybe Tennessee.
Tennessee is second lowest.
Man, the Giants.
Giants are tied for second.
The Giants have a brutal schedule.
Yeah.
All the NFC East teams have to play the North. So you're playing the Bears, Lions, Packers, Vikings, and all the NFC East teams have to play the AFC West, which means you're playing Denver, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. So you have, of your 8 teams that you have to play, 6 of them made the playoffs last year.
Yep.
The Bears look to be a playoff team potentially this year. So that's why the NFC East has a gauntlet of a schedule. Now, let me look at the back end real quick. You have a bye in Week 9. You're at Green Bay, coming out of the bye on a Monday night. So you have the bye plus the Monday night.
Right, and it's on the road in Green Bay.
You're going from Green Bay to play again on a Sunday night against Detroit. So you get the 2 North teams, both playoff teams, back-to-back.
The only good thing is Detroit is at least at home.
Then you got to go out to Dallas and play them. You come back home and play the Bears on a Black Friday.
Short week.
Monday night, Chargers. So you got to go back across the country to play the Chargers. Then you come back home. You get a little bit of a break against the Raiders. The Raiders are not going to be a very good team.
Raiders going to be better than last year, but they are listed right now as 6.5 wins over under.
Then you finish out Washington, Buffalo, Washington. That's a brutal.
Yeah,
listen,
that's the gauntlet right there.
Washington, Buffalo, Washington, road, home. We got to look. I don't know that anybody would be able to find this. Has any team ever played a team that went to the conference finals and played 3 straight weeks against them?
I would have to look it up, and it would probably take me a long time because it's probably a very obscure stat. But I'm assuming there isn't.
Matt from Cape May. Mike, it's a long season, and what may look like a brutal schedule now is only a quarterback injury away from the opponent and the team being strong to the team you didn't push over. Absolutely, Matt. We know that. Things can change between now and then. But if everything stays and kind of plays out the way it is.
Right, if everybody stays chalk.
In May, I can't project a injury, but you're right. Things could change. But today I'm having the conversation about what I know.
Yep.
And what I know is the schedule is brutal. Terry Galloway, Mike, has a team ever had a schedule without back-to-back home games? That must be hard on the players to travel every single week. Tough week, go Birds. I don't know about that. Has a team never had back-to-back home games? It's a good question. Here's a couple of the other notes for the Eagles fans. For the first time in 6 years, the Eagles will be at home at Lincoln Financial Field. Think about that. They haven't played at the Link at home in Week 1 in 6 years. Do you know who they last played the season opener at home against? Do you remember the game? Anybody out there? Do you remember the game? The last time they opened the season at home at the Link. Now, last year they were the home team, but they played in Brazil.
Yeah, it didn't count. In front of the Lincoln Financial Field fans, I believe it was 2019, and Carson Wentz was the quarterback.
That is correct. Do you know who the opponent was?
I feel like it was an NFC East team.
Well, you've narrowed it down to two teams because we know it wasn't Dallas.
It wasn't Dallas. I'm going to go with Washington.
It was Washington. Right. They played Washington. They beat them 32-27 in that game. 2019.
Because that was the year Carson Wentz threw for over 4,000 passing yards.
Most in franchise history.
Yeah.
The Eagles will host the Cowboys in the opener for the second time in their history. The other time they did it was in 1970. It's the fifth time, by the way, that the Eagles and Cowboys have played in the opener. The last time they played on opening weekend was the Pickle Juice game in 2000. The Eagles won that game 41-14. They have also played in the opener in 1970, 72, 76, 2000, and now this year.
And really quick, one of those home openers was the final season of Franklin Field. So they played the Cowboys the opening week, final season of Franklin Field. According to CBS Sports, the Philadelphia Eagles are the first team in the Super Bowl era to not play back-to-back home games the following season after winning a championship.
Okay, following season after winning a championship. That doesn't mean that other teams haven't gone through that before.
No, but I can confirm at least of Super Bowl teams, this has never happened.
The Eagles will travel to Kansas City in week 2. The last time these two teams played the regular season was in 2023. Philadelphia won that game 21-17. You guys remember that game, right? That was the year the Eagles went 10-1 to open the season and then fell apart. But they beat the Chiefs on the road in that game on a Monday night. They'll now be in Kansas City in week 2 for a Super Bowl rematch.
I think that Kansas City team is going to be really tough to play that game. I hate saying chalk it up as a loss, but don't be surprised if Kansas City puts out an A-plus effort in that game.
Nothing surprises me with Kansas City. They're obviously in the midst of being one of the best teams best runs for a franchise in NFL history. The Eagles will play the Commanders twice in the final 3 weeks of the year. The last time these two teams played was in the 2024 NFC Championship game. Philadelphia, 55 points in that game. The next time they play, though, will not be until week 16, so they will not see the Commanders until December, late in the season. And for the fourth straight year, the Eagles have 5 primetime games scheduled. They have appeared in the second most primetime games since the year 2000, with 109. The Dallas Cowboys have the most times in primetime. And, of course, the Cowboys and the Chiefs, they have the most primetime games this season, with 7 for for Kansas City and 6 for the Cowboys. There you go. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. What stands out to you about the schedule? What is a quirk? What is something? Where's a part of it that you want to break down a little deeper? Chris in Wilmington, checking in from the 302, says if Barkley gets hurt, can Jalen carry the team? I don't want to hear the Hurts people make excuses. Barkley had over 300 touches. He will most likely miss a few games. Chris in Wilmington, fair question. I think they could. I think if Jalen Hurts got asked to, and I wonder, Chris, remember, Kevin Petula, new offensive coordinator. He is a pass game coordinator. His background is a pass game coordinator. Will he lean a little bit more on the pass game this season? Could be. Chris, thanks for the text. You guys heard the schedule. What stands out to you? We'll break it down a little bit more. I have a couple more quirks in the schedule I want to break down. I cannot believe they did not have back-to-back home games. It's almost incomprehensible. More Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And check us out. Watch the show on your home TV, laptop, phone, tablet, on the Twitter X platform, and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. 2:31 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Sal Paolantonio tonight at 5. He'll tell us what he thinks about the Eagles' schedule. You guys can tell me what you guys think about the Eagles' schedule. 609-403-0973. A lot of texts coming in. Zach from Mays Landing says, Mike, I hate that the league keeps doing this with the divisional matchups where one teams don't play until late in the season, then again a couple of weeks later for Week 18. I don't want to wait until almost the end of December to play Washington for the first time. On top of that, Washington-Buffalo, then Washington is going to be brutal. The only thing I see good about this schedule is a Week 9 bye from Zach in Mays Landing. Yeah, I like the Week 9 bye too. It's like early November, so you get you get a little rhythm. A little break, then the stretch run. But you're right. I don't even know how to research this or find this. I can't ever imagine a team in the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game, and you have to play them 3 straight weeks. I mean, that's a brutal way. Now, the only reprieve from that could be if by the end of the year, look, Washington just isn't the same team as they were a year before. They have some problems, and they're kind of playing out the string. If Buffalo has already won the East and they don't really need the game all that much, that would be the only other, then that stretch of games turns into a little different. But right now, you got the 2 teams that were the runners-up in their conference on your schedule and to close out the season. And if you need those games late in the year, that's a very difficult task to go on the road back-to-back weeks in December and play the AFC defending AFC runners-up and defending NFC runners-up. Jeff in Ocean City says the last time the Eagles didn't have a season with back-to-back home games was 2008. They finished 9-6-1. They won a road playoff game at Minnesota and New York before losing the NFC title game at Arizona 32-25. Jeff in Ocean City, man, that's good producing out of you. The last time they didn't have back-to-back home games was 2008. That's a 9-6-1 season. Is that the Jeff Garcia year? Is that Jeff Garcia there? Jeff in Ocean City? He probably could get on that one pretty good. Well, the reason the Eagles do not have back-to-back home games this year after winning the Super Bowl lets you know exactly how ticked off the NFL is that the Chiefs didn't win last year. By the way, Joe from Summers Point. Hey, Joe in Summers Point. Thanks for leaving your name on that. Well, listen, the fact that they don't have back-to-back home games, there's a lot. I was reading an article about this today about, you got to schedule around this, the Phillies, that, all these teams. There was an article Albert Breer wrote, and it was talking about how they come up with the schedule and that this year they're looking to have big-time matchups on big-time days. They want to break a lot of records this year. That's why you're getting Cowboys and Chiefs, and you're getting Cowboys-Eagles on these primetime games. They want these primetime windows to be really big ratings. But, there was week 2, I think it is, where the Chargers play the Raiders. And I think the Chargers are in Brazil week 1. They have to come home, and they wanted them to play a home game. But the stadium is not available on Sunday, and the stadium is not available in Vegas because there's a concert. Both places have a concert on Sunday. So neither one of them could play at home on Sunday. So the Chargers had to agree that they would go play in Vegas on a Monday night. So that gave them an extra day, and they were willing to do that. So there was this whole article about how they really have to check with these teams to see if they're okay. Like Minnesota, for instance. They're playing back-to-back weeks in Europe. They're in Dublin in week 4. They're in London in week 5. It's never happened before. So the NFL approached them and asked if that was okay, and they said they would be willing to do it. So there's a lot of times where, maybe your stadium's not available. Maybe the Phillies are at home. That was another problem with Pittsburgh. The Pirates are at home on Sunday in weeks 1 and 3, I think, of the season. So they try to avoid having the football team at home the same Sunday when the baseball team's at home.
By the way, the 2008 Eagles was the year they went to the NFC Championship and lost to the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's what Jeff said. He beat you to it.
Well, first of all, you asked a question. I looked it up, and then you went on this side thing about what Albert Breer wrote. So I went and found the answer.
No. He said in the text message, he said that they lost to, and he gave the score of the game. He said the last time it happened, they beat Minnesota, Then they beat the Giants, and then they lost to Arizona in the NFC Championship game, 9-6-1.
That was all in the same original text.
Yeah, last time the Eagles didn't have a season with back-to-back home games was 2008. Finished that season 9-6-1. They won a road playoff game at Minnesota and New York before losing the NFC title game at Arizona 32-25. Jeff, Ocean City.
Then why'd you ask about Garcia?
I asked if he was the quarterback of the team.
Well, he wouldn't have been because they played the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game.
Garcia's team didn't get to the NFC Championship? Oh, no, that was McNabb was the quarterback then.
Yeah.
So Garcia was the quarterback. Because I know when Garcia was the quarterback, they beat the Giants in a playoff
But then they
game.
lost to the Saints in the next round.
Gotcha. So when he had the Giants in there, what was that, 06?
I think it was 06 or 07. Let me double check.
Yeah, Garcia beat the Giants, who I think won the division that year.
06.
Yeah. Donovan won all three playoff games. Jeff followed up there. I didn't see that follow up there. But, all right, Terry says, the more I think about it, the more I realize this is malpractice. They just won the Super Bowl, so the league wants to showcase them. Fine. They play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. They can't get one back-to-back home game. That's intentional. Maybe. But the Super Bowl team, if you could go back and look at Kansas City's schedule last year, it was a nightmare.
It was.
And they won 15 games, by the way. Now, the caliber of teams that Philadelphia is playing, this is a gauntlet of a schedule. Now, keep in mind, the entire NFC East has to play the same 8 teams, but Philadelphia adds in Buffalo, which nobody else in the division has to play, and that comes with the territory. So the Eagles' schedule is definitely more difficult.
I will say that because the conversation that Jeff Mosher and I talked about on Monday's show, Mike, which is if you look at the Phillies' schedule, because you mentioned about what's going on with some of the other teams. So the Phillies have a home series from September 8th to September 14th.
September 8th. How many Sundays in there? So the 14th is a Sunday. So they're at home on the 4th. The 14th, they're on the road. So because the Phillies are at home, they sent them to Kansas City.
The next time the Phillies have a home game is September 28th.
You say it has to be the 28th because now they're at Tampa.
Right. So that's part of the reason of this situation. To the original point about the baseball team.
And why are they on the road for 2 straight weeks in October early? The Phillies could be at home in the playoffs. So they probably felt, all right, if the Phillies are at home for the playoffs, we're going to have to send you on the road in those early October windows. And there are the Eagles on the road October 9th and October 19th. They are on the road for back-to-back games. Now, what I can see happening is there's a Thursday night game. I could see a Phillies-Eagles Thursday night where you got to battle with the remote control.
That's happened before.
That was a World Series, though.
It was.
October 9th would probably be in the division series, I would imagine.
That would be a divisional round, yeah.
609-403-0973.
By the way, it kind of reminded me of how the Flyers have that West Coast trip every year because the Disney on Ice comes to the center.
Yeah, and like not Kansas City, San Antonio.
Yep.
They've got to go on the road for like for the whatever
2
it is. Yeah, it's a whole thing. By the way, Kansas City plays on Friday, Sunday night, Monday, Sunday night, Monday night, Thanksgiving, Sunday night, Thursday night. So
Christmas
they've got
Thursday night.
Christmas Thursday night. So they're on Thanksgiving. So to go back to the text message that said this is malpractice, Kansas City has a pretty – now, I don't remember – I don't know if you could find the days of the week they played last year as the Super Bowl champion, but they were all over the place last year. I remember last year saying, my gosh, Kansas City's schedule is absolutely nuts last year. But real quick for this year, their first 2 games in a row are at home. They have a 3-game homestand, Kansas City. Think about that.
So Kansas City opened the year last year on a Thursday. Then they played 3 straight Sundays. Then they played, starting in October, Monday, Sunday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday. So that was their October and November.
So they played a Thursday, 2 Mondays.
But the 2 Mondays were both in October.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. One was beginning of October, one was beginning of November. I read that wrong. So they had 2 Mondays. Then they had a Friday, which was the Black Friday game.
Yep.
They had a Saturday in December. Then they played Christmas.
Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Their schedule this year is actually worse than it was last year.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're the defending Super Bowl champions. They want you on TV. But I will say, Kansas City this year plays 2 games at home in September to open the year, week 1 and 2. They have a 3-game homestand, week 6, 7, and 8.
Wow.
And then late in the year, in December, they have a 2-game homestand in week 14 and 15. They close out the year at Tennessee, home against Denver, at Vegas.
So their home games are clustered. They're not spread out.
Well, yeah, they have 2 in a row, 3 in a row, 2 in a row, and then a couple of ones in there. So Kansas City definitely got a little bit better. Now, keep in mind, the AFC West, they're playing Philadelphia's NFC East as one of their things. So they have to play Philadelphia, they have to play Washington, they have to play Dallas, and they play the Giants. But their other games, when they go for the crossover, are against the AFC South, which is the weakest division probably in football.
Weaker
right?
than the NFC South?
I would,
both South divisions.
Yeah,
are
they're both
pretty
weak. I would think Tampa might be the best of the 8 teams.
Okay.
Maybe Houston, one of those two, right? And then maybe Indianapolis or Atlanta. And then, man, after that, you really got some
issues. By the way, did you see that the Eagles they're kind of like in the middle of the pack when it comes to traveling miles on their schedule? So the Chargers are going to they have to travel 28,000 miles this year on their schedule.
Well, they're going to Brazil.
The team that's traveling the least, Mike, is the Cincinnati Bengals. They travel 8,000.
Nice. All right. Well, listen, all these quirks. I love this whole schedule. Listen, here's another big thing. And you look at the Eagles' schedule late in the year, later on in the year, when we get to December, you're at the Chargers. That's a nice, good weather game. Home against Vegas, at Washington, at Buffalo, home against Washington. You're on the road in 2 cold weather spots late in December as well. And early in the year, you're at Tampa, which is where they've had a lot of problems in those early season hot games down in Tampa. They always seem to have a problem there. And they're at Green Bay in November, which should be okay. You shouldn't have to worry about the snow problem in that situation.
See, to me, I don't think the cold weather games are a problem for Philadelphia because you're already a cold weather city. Historically, it's been going to Tampa, going to Miami.
Yeah.
Those games. Remember the Miami game years ago? They got destroyed. What was it, 2019? Like, when they deal with humidity, that's when they had the problem.
All right, coming up, there's a look at the schedule. We'll do more of it. Andrew's going to join us for football at 4. Sal Pal tonight at 5 o'clock. Your thoughts on the schedule, you can keep them coming. 609-403-0973. Hit us up on the text board, 609-403-0973. When we come back, can he be fixed? That's next. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. 250 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Keith Smith, 10 minutes. John McMullen, 3:25 today. We'll talk to Johnny Mack, get his take on the schedule breakdown, what stands out to him. Football at 4, Sal Paolantonio. We got you covered. We're heavy on the football today. It's going to be gone in a little while. The football's going to evaporate a little bit. They'll have mini camps coming up. We'll be all over those as well. By the way, I do have news, some football news, regarding one of our big events. I'll just throw that out there, okay? What was I talking about? Oh, NOLA. Are people not starting, because people don't like NOLA. NOLA's another one of those guys that people just don't like.
He's a hate the face.
It's not that they don't like him either. He's not a bad dude at all. He might be the nicest. He's he got shelled last night, and he shows up at the ballpark today for charity.
Yep.
I mean, he is a great human being.
Yep. They just think he's overpaid.
Yeah. I mean, for a guy who has done as much for this team as NOLA has, he never misses a start.
Nope.
He always leaves it out there, whether he pitches well or not. Like last night, I thought they should have got him out of the game a little earlier, but I think it's NOLA. Like it's one of those things where it's like you almost can't even believe what you're seeing. You give him the benefit of the doubt, but he got pounded for 12 hits last night, 9 runs. I mean, this guy's poor ERA, he's never going to be able to fix this thing.
No, but he was out there because you needed him to go out there and eat some innings after using 3 guys in the game one.
I got to say, though, I mean, listen, you're up 5-1 in that game. I thought you had a chance to get him out of that game and maybe keep the game at hand. I mean, he just did not have it last night.
Nope.
You bring in Banks, and you kind of stabilize it, and then you go to Walker, and Walker's pitching okay, and this is where the whole Walker thing, I think, blows up in your face, is you rely on Walker too much, and he get hit around. He gives up 3 runs, and the game gets – Hernandez was terrible last night. He was awful. So I'm wondering if NOLA right now, if NOLA is lacking confidence, and I'm thinking myself through this because NOLA is not a guy who throws hard.
No,
he's never been an overpowering guy. He had 2 strikeouts last night. But is he lacking, even though he doesn't have a great fastball, is he lacking confidence in that fastball? Because they hit him all over the place, and he's given up so many home runs, just so many long balls, and he almost looks like when's the next one coming, right? I mean, the look he has sometimes now is almost as if he's doing everything he can in his mind to not give up a home run. That's no way to pitch, man.
No, because that's how you give up more.
That's how you getting yourself into some trouble. He gets through 3, and so you go to that. What inning was that where they scored? They got 5 in the third,
and the third,
and 3 in the fourth, though. And they sent him out there in the fourth, and I get it. He's got to go out there to pitch the 4th inning. He gives up the home run to win, and then he gets an out. So now he's got 2 outs. He's got 2 outs, and there's a little infield single, then another single, then another infield single, and they bring in Banks at that point to try to get out of the inning, but he has 2 outs in that inning, and he just can't get out of the inning. And that game's 7-6, and then the next thing you know, they bring in Banks, and he gives up 3 runs, and now it's a 9-6 game. So you almost wonder if NOLA should have tried to get out of the inning himself. They had a left-handed hitter. Burleson came up there. So it was a rough time right there. That 4th inning was a big moment in the game, and it was almost like they were like, can we just get NOLA through this 4th inning? And they just couldn't do it because he had a rough 3rd inning, by the way. The home run to Nootbaar, Donovan with a double, Burleson with a homer, and I think because Burleson hit a 400-foot Titanic blast off him in the 3rd, they didn't want him to face again in the 4th, so I kind of get that. But, yeah, I think NOLA starting to feel a little lack of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that Eldon and I said after the evening. Was like, let's just never come back here, right? So that was my first lottery. I hope it's my last lottery. It's sort of the parade of the bad teams, and you'd rather not be there. And we spent all year saying, like, how do we make sure we're never here again? And that's what we worked on.
Daryl Morey on the Takeoff podcast with John Clark. He said, let's make this our last time in the lottery. Well, this is a team that lost 59 games last year. How realistic is it for them to not be in the lottery? Keith Smith covers the NBA, Spotrac.com. Long time we have talked about this organization, and a lot of times we're talking about them being disappointing in the playoffs. Keith, they were disappointing on the floor this year. Morey's been all over the place. We had Nick Nurse on the show on Tuesday because they are not in the playoff. They are in the lottery. Let's get your take, Keith, on how big it was for them to go up to number 3 in the lottery on Monday night.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's certainly better than dropping back to 7 and losing the pick, which, I think there were some anxious moments probably in the room, and then as we all watched the reveal on TV as well. But this is big now. You're not going to get Cooper Flagg. You're not going to get Dylan Harper, who are the two top prospects in this. They're each kind of in a tier of their own. But then if you keep the pick, you can go with the next two guys on my board would be VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey. Both could fill real needs for the Sixers in some major ways. So I think those would be important guys to look at. Or the bigger thing, which maybe is more important, this could open up some trade possibilities. And I think if you're Daryl Morey in that front office and Nick Nurse and the coaching staff, what you're sitting down and going through right now is, all right, do we trade this pick with probably some other outgoing salary in a deal that will return win-now talent for us? Do we feel like Embiid and George are going to be able to be reliable enough that's worth doing? Or do we draft a player and now we put that player with McCain and Maxey, and we have a little bit of a bridge to whatever is next if Embiid and George just never make it back reliably enough?
Yeah, there's so much we can get into, and we will with Keith Smith right now. They stay at number 3. Do you look at the talent at number 3 as a player who steps right in and plays and makes an impact right away? Is that the type of player in this year's draft? I mean, there's a lot of drafts. By the time you get to the 3rd pick, that guy is such a project that sometimes they don't contribute all that much. Do you look at this year's draft and say, no, the Sixers should get a player at number 3 that should help them if they stay at 3?
Yeah, they should get a player that can help them. Now, a guy like VJ Edgecombe, for example, he is more of a ready-to-go defender than he'll be anything else day one. And your question would be, all right, how much playing time is he going to get in a backcourt that maybe already has Maxey and McCain and Grimes, and then Eric Gordon's probably going to opt in. Where does that playing time come? Do you get an impact that way? So then you look at, all right, well, Ace Bailey, one of the comps people have made for Ace Bailey is Paul George. He's not quite the all-around passer and defender that George was when he came in, but as far as just a guy who can make shots, he's a guy who can make tough shots, he's got good size for his position, so he's a guy that you could look at and say, all right, well, Paul George is probably going to miss some time, if we're being honest, the way things go, so he could probably plug right in and play, and that might give you an option then, all right, well, we could use a guy like Kelly Oubre in a trade, because we're assuming he's going to opt in, we could go in a different direction, so I think you can get guys who can contribute right away. I don't know that they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy's a 20-point scorer and lifting us to a whole new level, right out of the gate, because that's not very likely. But rotation contributors, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. We talked to Nick Nurse on Tuesday, and I asked him, I said, did you have any thoughts that Jared McCain would have the impact that he had? He said, absolutely not. And I asked him if that gives him now a longer leash for some of these rookies. And, he said, not necessarily, like you got to earn that time. But, is there a guy that you think fits in with this team? You just mentioned, hey, maybe they got a logjam here. But is there a player that you think would be available to them? Here's the problem, because you might have a player that fits better, but you don't take it 3. So are the Sixers a prime trade back candidate, even though Morey has been pretty steadfast that they're staying at 3? Do you think it benefits them better? Is there a player you think fits for them in a trade back scenario?
I mean, it's certainly possible. I think it's always funny because people talk all the time about, this team should trade back. This team should trade back. Well, that assumes that there are teams that want to trade up. And the little bit of the challenge in this draft, like I said, you got Cooper Flagg, tier of his own. Dylan Harper, tier of his own at 2. These are my personal rankings. Then you got Bailey and Edgecombe kind of in their own group. So if you're Philly, now you're trading into the next tier of guys. There's a lot of good players there. And that's assuming you're only going back to let's say 7, 8, 9 in that range. There's a lot of good players in there that you could get. But I think if you're Philadelphia, you have a hard time selling to anyone. All right, if we're trading back and adding more volume of picks, well, what good is that for a team that is built around Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey? We should be trying to add somebody who can help right now. And then your other question would be, let's say they work to trade with Brooklyn, who's sitting at 8 and has multiple other first-round picks, and Philly went the volume route there. The question is, all right, well, now we traded out of a guy who could definitely help and is probably better, and do we need a volume play? Where are we going with this? So I think that's why they're probably most likely to stick where they are and make a selection and bring in someone, again, like Bailey or Edgecombe, who can slot in. One other thing with Edgecombe that I didn't mention, you draft a guy like him, he's kind of Quentin Grimes-ish, and I know that people are going to be like, wait, Grimes was our breakout guy. He was the best thing we had going in the second half of the season. But he's also a restricted free agent. Let's say Brooklyn gets a little crazy with an offer sheet, and Philly's like, I don't know that we can go that way. If you draft a guy like Edgecombe, now you're feeling a little bit like, all right, well, yeah, we had to let Grimes go, but at least we've got somebody who can step into that 3-guard mix with McCain and Maxey that we feel pretty strongly about.
All right, you've talked a lot about Edgecombe. Ace Bailey is the other guy from Rutgers. A lot of people are saying that he's the third guy. What about him would you like as a fit?
Yeah, I like the way that he can score. I think he's going to be an NBA scorer. I don't know how much else he's going to do. I don't know that you're ever going to look at him and be like, there's a great lockdown defender. I don't think we're ever going to get there. I don't know that he's ever going to be a great playmaker, kind of all around. I'm not sure that's going to be a thing that we see out of him either, but I do think he'll score at the NBA level. And if you're Philly, if you're looking at it and saying, all right, we're kind of a little uncertain with Paul George. What does this look like? Now you've got a guy you can plug in there. And, he's probably not going to get you 20 a night day one, but you can kind of put him in a spot where it's like, all right, we can probably get him out there. He's going to get us 12, maybe 15 points and feel pretty good about that. And he's got a little bit of flexibility to play either forward spot. There's some who suggest he may even be able to play as a very big 2, again, kind of Paul George-ish. So there's a lot of reasons to like him as a fit as well.
Keith Smith, Spotrac.com, covers the NBA. Edgecombe and Bailey, they seem to be the debate at 3. Is there any other player that you're intrigued by that if somebody took them at 3, that it wouldn't be egregious?
Yeah, the only other guys that kind of come to mind for me, and I don't know that these two guys are really fits for Philly, are Kasparis Yakushonis as well as Jeremiah Fears. Those two guys are really they're probably more point guard than shooting guard, but they're kind of like scoring guards a little bit. But they're both more on-ball guys. And when you already have Maxey and McCain, I just don't know why you would need a third guy who does that same thing that starts to be a little bit too much overlapping skill sets. So then that takes you down to Trey Johnson. He could be an interesting player there. Big time scorer. He's got a lot of Cam Thomas, Jordan Clarkson in his game where he's going to take shots. He's super confident. He comes in kind of feeling like, hey, I'm the best guy going here. Good luck, to everybody else. Let's go. And that's, great confidence to have. And then if they were to trade back, and fall a little bit deeper into the draft, then you're looking at guys like Derek Queen, Kaman Mawach, a couple of bigs that would give you that insurance for Joel Embiid long term, or a guy like Igor Demin who looks like, all right, he could also be a real player on the wing, is a big playmaking type player. And that's, again, if you trade back at all, but you stay in, let's say, the top 10-ish range.
Keith, you trade back. Is there a level of player that you would be interested in? Like, you're not getting Giannis most likely in a move back situation, obviously. But is there like, hey, if we can get this guy to flip-flop places with you, it gives us an established player, and we stay in the, somewhere in the first round, and we give up pick 3. Is that guy someone to keep an eye on draft night?
Yeah, there could be a world where if you could work out something with the Brooklyn Nets where maybe you could get like Cam Johnson, that starts to be, all right, we sacrificed a few draft slots, but we're still going to get a pretty good player to come in and be a part of our rotation as a rookie, and we added Cam Johnson. That's probably better than, Edgecombe or Bailey at 3. So that would be a spot. I don't think Washington's in a spot where they're really looking to move up. Utah's probably like, man, everything went as wrong as it could for us at the lottery, but getting the 3 is not really where we want to be. And then that puts you like Toronto. Toronto has a lot of guys, and that would kind of be like, all right, well, what would you be looking at to get off that Raptors roster? If it was a position where it was, and I don't assume this would be anything that Philly wants, but if they were like, man, we really love Jakob Poeltl as our, answer while Embiid is out, or we really like RJ Barrett to be another guy on the wing, yeah, maybe you could trade back and bring in one of those guys. But that's the problem, because the trade up teams, you have to return value if you're Philly beyond just a whole bunch of slew of draft picks. That's why Brooklyn makes sense. And I don't know about New Orleans. They've got an awful lot of guys. I just don't know that any of them are a real pure match. There's part of me that would love it if they traded for Zion Williamson and just went all in and said, hey, if we can get everybody healthy, man, we are going to, we're going to be something to deal with here. But I think that's a bridge too far with another guy who would, be likely to miss an awful lot of time.
Right. That's kind of, we're talking with Keith Smith from Spotrac.com, covers the NBA. That's what I'm saying is, like, is there a player or a team that says we would value number 3 so much that we're willing to give you an established player? And the guys you kind of rattled off, they sound more like secondary role type of players, yeah. So that if you're Philadelphia, you're probably swinging to hope that pick 3 is a much bigger impact than one of the guys you mentioned. Now, you throw Zion into the mix, now you have to start thinking about it. You're going to give me Zion, I give you pick 3, and I move into your spot. That's something you have to consider if that's offered to you, right?
Yeah, you have to at least look at it. Now, here's the challenge if you're Philly. It's getting to the matching salary for Zion. Like, that's going to be an issue, because now you're talking about, this is where this gets really complicated, because by the time you're having to answer these questions, you may not have clarity on Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon and Kelly Oubre Jr., if they're picking up their options. And Zion, I mean, he's still a $30 million player, so getting a salary match, that's going to be a real challenge. That's why, people love to dream up these scenarios where, well, we'll do 3 and we'll do Quentin Grimes in a sign-in trade out. But now you're talking about a team saying, all right, yeah, you pick for us at 3 because you can't do that pre-draft. So you're going to pick for us, and we're going to hope Quentin Grimes is there, because people forget in a sign-in trade, the first part of that is the sign portion where the player actually has to, agree to it. And that's why we don't see things like that. And then when we do, the NBA starts snooping around and saying, hey, wait a minute, you're working all this out a little too early here. Let's have a conversation about tampering and future draft picks, which, Philadelphia's been on the other side of as well.
All right, Keith. So obviously they get that 3rd spot. This was a disastrous year. Morey has given a lot of indication. He actually made a comment that basically said, at this time, we feel good about all of our players being available for game 1. And he did throw Embiid in there as well. They have been pretty steadfast in conversations this offseason. Morey has been on multiple podcasts. Nick Nurse was on with me on Tuesday. They've all kind of indicated they expect Embiid to be ready. That's a big if, obviously. But with Embiid, George, and Maxey, are they right back in the mix in your eyes as a contending team, or are they way off based on what we saw from them last year?
No, I think they'd be right back in the mix. You have to look at the state of the Eastern Conference right now. Milwaukee, if they trade Giannis, we're going to take them out of the mix. Boston, we're probably going into a gap year for the Celtics without Jason Tatum. They're probably going to be in a spot where it is, all right, they're going to have, some stuff to figure out themselves. So take them probably out of the mix. So now you're looking at, all right, Cleveland, they've washed out 2 years in a row in the second round. What are they going to look like next year? Do they make any roster changes? Then you have the Knicks and the Pacers, really good teams, really solid teams. I think they'll be back again. But if you're Philadelphia and you're like, we're starting out with a healthy Embiid, a healthy Paul George, and we've got, in Tyrese Maxey, and then we were able to add a draft pick and we fill out our depth, I think all of a sudden you're feeling pretty good about your chances next season because you're at least on paper you're looking at it. You're probably going to have this is where Daryl Morey's going to have to work, right? He's going to have to keep doing work to add depth and make sure he's continually tinkering around the edges of the rotation and make sure if Embiid goes down for a month, if George goes down for a month, you have the right kind of guys to step in. But if you have those guys to start the year, you're starting out the year feeling really good about your chances.
All right, let's talk about Morey then, because a lot of people thought he deserved to be fired and should not be the guy. Where do you stand on Morey? And, if you are the Sixers, Morey, obviously, they didn't get rid of him. They think he's the right guy with what they have in this situation. Would you have leaned towards they should have moved on from Morey, or do you think that Morey is the right guy for this situation?
Yeah, I'd stick with him and give him another year. And if they can't get Embiid and George relatively healthy or get out of those deals and reset in a very meaningful way where they're ready to move forward successfully, then you probably have to think about making a change. But I'll say this, for all the people, and I've seen them on social media getting real loud about, Daryl Morey's going to go, he should be fired. If you were super excited a little over or a little under a year ago when you were like, man, we have Paul George and we're going to win a title and all this stuff, well, you can't be mad that it didn't work out because you were on board then. Everybody told you. I remember talking with you guys saying, hey, this all looks perfect if they stay healthy. If you're one of the people saying, man, these guys are never healthy, this is never going to work, then I'm not going to argue with you too much. If you think they blew it and made the bad decision. But if you were all fired up about it a year ago, you don't get to now be screaming and yelling about this. These guys are always hurt. We all knew that going in. That's a little bit of the challenge. So, that's where I kind of come down on that.
He said in a recent interview that, he's only had one losing season. He says, we're pretty good at this winning thing. Is that a tone-deaf type of comment from a team that just lost 59 games? Now, listen, I like Morey. I think Morey deserves to be the guy here. I think he's the right guy. I like what he's done on the peripherals of this team. When you sign Embiid and George and that blows up in your face, those two things overshadow all the good. So people are so mad about those two signings that the Grimes trade and finding Bona and drafting McCain and getting Maxey, like those moves really you should get some applause for, but nobody cares because of the Embiid and George thing kind of blowing up in their face.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it, right? When it's, those things sound great until you remember they didn't play a meaningful game after, Christmas. It really was, all right, this kind of fell apart on us in a big way and, went completely sideways and it was all done. So that's where that part does scream a little tone deaf. And my thing is, I'm with you. I also like Daryl Morey quite a bit as well. I think he is really, really good at this. And I never am going to get too up in arms about, hey, what did he ever win with the Rockets? Not his fault. He built a Rockets team that ran into the Dynasty Warriors every year. I mean, there's just nobody was getting out of the West for a pretty long period of time. So I think that is a challenge. And let's call it what it is. Those Rockets pushed them really close. But on the other hand, you haven't ever won anything. You've never gone, on any kind of run with this Philly team. And we're not in year two. Like we're a few years into this now. So that does scream a little like, hey, back off. Like we've won a lot because let's face it, Philadelphia fans at this point, they don't want to win 50 games and be out in the second round. They want to be in the conference finals, in the NBA finals. They'd rather win 44 games, be the seventh seed, and play their way into the NBA finals that way than win a whole bunch of regular season games and lose. Fans are they're over it right now. It's time to let's start winning real games here.
All right, Keith Smith, obviously a lot of NBA playoffs. You are close to that Celtic-Knicks series. Awesome performance by the Celtics last night. Did you see enough from them that they can win 2 more?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, right? Because there was obviously a ton of emotion last night. Guys played really well. The crowd was, fantastic, and that's the perfect example there of like, let's rally around our guys, right? Let's make this happen for our guys, and I felt really good about. They got at least one more day in the sun, right? With this group together, going into New York, it's going to be tough, right? The Knicks are really good. I think the Knicks might have shown up a little bit thinking like, hey, just, weather the early storm and then these guys will roll over for us. And the Celtics didn't do it. But the Knicks are going to have to work. I don't think the Celtics are going to hand them the game by any means. The Knicks have not, run away with a single game in this series where Boston has run away with 2 of them. So if I'm the Knicks, and it's tight late, I know they feel pretty good because they've got Jalen Brunson, but there's going to be part of them thinking, man, I don't want to go back to Boston. Like, this is not what we want to do, because that Celtics crowd now, it'll be, hey, we're full on house money. Let's go. Let's get this win. So this is a really, really important Game 6 for the Knicks to close this thing out.
All right, before we rock and roll out of here, Keith, right now you've got that series still going on. The Pacers have advanced. Minnesota has moved on. You got the game tonight, which is Denver, Oklahoma City. Who are you picking in the finals?
In the finals, I'm gonna. Well, if I wanted to cheat, I'd say the winner of Thunder Nuggets to beat the Knicks would be what I would say right now. But I'm gonna go Thunder over Knicks in the finals. Really what I'm hoping for tonight is Nuggets force a Game 7. Like, that series has been awesome.
Yeah.
We all, as NBA fans, we should all be begging, for another game, one more game, and that's where, let's get there and let's kind of go. So that is, that's where I'm kind of at with that one. But yeah, I think it's it's the Thunder just. We've seen what they can do there, and I think the Knicks are probably the most complete team left. But the Pacers are gonna push, and so are the Timberwolves. Like, you could tell me we're getting 2 7-game series in the conference finals, no matter who it is, and I'm not going to argue with you very much.
All right, I like that Thunder team a lot as well. We'll see what happens. That game's tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Nuggets and OKC. It has been a lot of fun. We'll see if the Thunder can advance. He's Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Spotrac.com is where you can check out all of his work. He's got a great update on all of the teams, their off seasons, where they stand in the draft. Go check that out over at Spotrac.com. And, of course, you can follow him on the X platform at Keith Smith NBA. Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There's Keith. And, of course, the NBA draft, June 27th, right here on 97.3. June 25th, I should say, right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. When we come back, John McMullen gives us the thoughts on the on the Eagles schedule, how it all fell into place. No back-to-back home games. Where's his most brutal stretch? We'll get his thoughts on the Eagles schedule coming up next, plus football at 4. Sal Paolantonio, you out there. A lot happening. Don't go away. More Sports Bash coming up on 97.3 ESPN. 329 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. John McMullen, Birds 365, Sports Illustrated. Eagles schedule drops, but what are some of the quirks and things that Johnny Mac sees in this schedule that stand out to him? I'll tell you a couple things, John. I don't know if it's ever happened. We talked about this on your show the other day. The Commanders-Eagles Week 16 on a Saturday. They play again 2 weeks later, and in the middle, you have the AFC runner-up. You've got to play the team that went to the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game 3 straight weeks, 2 of them on the road. That's a brutal way to end the season if those games mean something.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you put that caveat on it because I'm not sure it's going to look as bad from the standpoint of that Buffalo game because if there's any team guaranteed to win their division in the NFL, it's the Buffalo Bills. Barring catastrophe from an injury standpoint, you look like Miami's going in a downward direction. The New York Jets are getting a little bit better, but not even close. And New England's going to get a little bit better with Mike Vrabel, but again, it's not even close. So unless they're playing for a seeding potential, it's very unlikely that Buffalo will need that game. So who knows? When you get to that position, all of a sudden a game that might be the most difficult on the schedule as a whole, you think about Western New York in late December and lake effect snow and yada yada, it might not even mean anything. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why you can't get really wrapped up when this schedule comes out every year, but everybody does.
Yeah. Well, listen, Buffalo. I say the same thing is that Buffalo could be playing for a 1 seed, right? That could be the one caveat is they're going to have the AFC East. You would think pretty wrapped up by them, but that game might mean home field advantage against Kansas City or something. So there is a possibility there. But the Washington Philadelphia, we talked about it on your show, like Week 16. And then I threw at you, there's a possibility they could play 2 weeks later. Maybe the Week 16 game result makes the Week 18 game not matter, but to play that team twice in a 2-week thing, and have to be on the road the previous 2 weeks, they have no back-to-back home games the entire season. I don't remember that happening in a long, long time, if at all.
No, that's rare. But, I think a lot of it depends on how good the team is. Like if you go back to last year, it didn't matter. Early bye week, it didn't matter. They won 16-17 after the bye. So, if you're a really good team, and if the Eagles are a really good team again, like they were last year, none of this will matter.
I will say though, John,
none of it will matter.
The schedule this year, in terms of opponents, it is a much more challenging navigation. And we've talked a lot about creatures of habits. You're playing Thursday. You're playing, Monday night. You're playing Sunday night. You're playing Black Friday. They are certainly going to be all over the place, but this is a much more challenging in terms of level of opponents' expectations with the NFC North and the AFC West.
Well, yeah, that's the key because the divisions locked in with the rotation are 2 good divisions on paper. But again, is Detroit going to be the same with 2 new coordinators? Probably not. They're going to be still very good. Minnesota going to be the same with a rookie quarterback, essentially, even though he's not a rookie. And J.J. McCarthy, who played 1 preseason game? Probably not. The NFL seems high on Chicago, but I think you see some of the stuff coming out. Maybe they should have waited a day. The stuff coming out with Seth Lickershan today. I don't know if Chicago's going to be that difficult. In Green Bay, the Eagles handled them last year. We'll see about it again. They were a little bit of a disappointment. And then I think there's some projection in the AFC West as well. I think Kansas City might be coming back a little bit. They might be on the descent. Are the Chargers potentially going to be a good team? Sure. But potentially can go in the opposite direction. I still think Las Vegas has a long way to go. I think people are skipping steps with Denver and Bo Nix. So, this is the year. I always say, and I've said it on your show probably a million times, this is the NFL. It's not college football. So when you look at every team, you can find really good players. You can talk yourself into things. But trust me, it's not going to look as bad in some. And there's going to be some teams that are better. The LA Rams, I think, are an ascending team, and ultimately gave the Eagles their toughest test in the postseason last year. And maybe that's a little bit tougher. Tampa Bay. I look at the September 14th, 21st, and 28th as the most difficult part of this schedule. And by that, I mean at Kansas City, which, again, I think the Eagles prove they're the better team. I think they're significant, but that's a home opener for Kansas City. In a revenge situation, that's a difficult spot. I just mentioned the Rams. And if there's one place the Eagles can't play, it's Tampa. And Tampa in September, when the heat and humidity could be in play again, they've had some bad luck in having to go down to Tampa so much. So if that's a 90-degree day with humidity in the 90s as well, that's one thing the Eagles haven't proven they can handle. So that early season, and plus you add into it what's happened off the field and the attrition on the coaching staff, the attrition on defense, the attrition even in the front office now as they lose Brandon Hunt today to Las Vegas. That's what happens to Super Bowl champions. And I think they might struggle a bit early in the season. But you got to you can lose two. You presumably beat Dallas in the opener. And then those next three games, you could even lose two as long as you have one. But that's dangerous, that 3-game stretch.
Well, and, there's the stretch they have in October. You're on the road twice, but it's the Giants on a Thursday, the Vikings with the rookie quarterback, really, his second year, but he didn't play last year, and then the Giants again, and then you get that bye week. So you like the bye kind of situated right in the middle there, but you do have the 2 back-to-back road games, but it is against opponents that you will likely, you have the Giants. You've got 2 division games within 3 weeks twice this year. That is a bizarre situation.
Yeah, I mean, with the Giants, I don't think it matters. I mean, they're getting a little bit better, but I don't think they're ready to compete in the NFC. So I think that's sort of a respite, if anything. And then with Washington, obviously late, a lot of people are high on Washington, and rightfully so. I think that's another ascending team with Jaden Daniels, but that doesn't mean it's
the Washington thing will be. Were they a byproduct of their schedule last year? Or is this team, ready to take the step?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you say ascending team, people assume it goes straight up. It's more like an EKG. You're going to have some ups, you're going to have some downs, and eventually you're going to go up. I think with Jaden Daniels, but it's challenging as every first place schedule is, but when you talk about first place schedules nowadays, talking about 3 games, and it's the divisional game and the interconference game, which is the 17th game. And for the Eagles, that's the LA Rams, that's Tampa Bay, and in the AFC, it's Buffalo,
right?
At Buffalo. So those are the 3 games. Those are the 3 games that make the Eagles' schedule different from Washington's, who's playing second-place teams, from the Cowboys, who are playing third-place teams, and for the Giants, who are playing fourth-place teams. But you're only talking about those 3 games. So everybody else in the NFC East has to play the NFC North as well, and they have to play the AFC West as well. So, and again, that differs from who's home, who's on the road, what makes it a little bit more difficult at times. And I do think the one thing, the teams that can beat the Eagles probably, they generally are playing them on the road, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Green Bay, Dallas. I wouldn't count Dallas and Washington because that's home and home. But those
Chargers and Bills. Chargers and Bills are the other two.
Chargers as well. Chargers and Bills. So, those are all on the road. So that's a little bit, I would say, bad luck.
Talk with John McMullen, Birds 365, weekday mornings at 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Sports Illustrated, the Eagles, and everybody's schedule kind of dropped over the week here. It came out officially last night. The Eagles with that Week 9 bye. Give me your thoughts on Dallas in the opener there, where you think Dallas kind of is. They won 7 games last year. No Dak Prescott for most of it. Defense riddled with injuries. Enough to get the coach fired. Defensive coordinator gone. New DC, new head coach. Quarterback's back. Off defense, they'll be healthy, you think, by the start of the season. They won 7 games. Is this a team that people are overlooking?
A little bit, depending on where you are. I mean, I don't know nationally, probably locally, because a lot of Eagles fans don't like the Cowboys, but yeah, they're going to be better. I mean, just the difference between Cooper Rush to Dak Prescott. But I do think people should understand that Dak is going to be 32. He's coming off another serious injury. And by the way, he wasn't playing that well before he got hurt last year. So maybe he was already starting to descend a little bit from a performance standpoint even before the injury. So I think there's some concern there. And then they're rebuilding in other spots, and they've been able to get C.D. Lamb some help with George Pickens in theory. They're starting to rebuild the offensive line, but it's a far cry from what it was when, Zach Martin and Tyron Smith were there and making all-pro teams. Defensively, as you mentioned, they'll get healthier, so they'll be better from that perspective. And I do think Matt Eberflus is going to be a big step up from Mike Zimmer. I just think, old school guy, the game's probably passed him by a little bit. But we don't know anything about Brian Schottenheimer other than his name. And that was a strange hiring, let's be honest. So, but we'll see. I mean, people would have said Nick Sirianni was a strange hire when the Eagles did it. And it's worked out pretty well. So you have to give those guys a chance. But, yeah, I think they'll be in the conversation for that final wild card spot in the NFC. And that means, you're at 9, maybe 10 wins. And that's the type of team they are.
You said earlier you think that stretch early, Kansas City, the Rams, Tampa Bay. You got Denver who, made the 6 of your 8 crossover games, division crossovers, 6 of the 8 made the playoffs last year. Chicago's the other one. The Raiders are the other. So that you got 6 of your 8 games against playoff teams from a year ago in just those crossover games, plus the 3, obviously, first-place games. But what about that Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas coming out of that bye right there? You got that Green Bay Monday, Detroit Sunday night, and then at Dallas. I mean, that's an interesting stretch coming right out of the bye, too.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to see on Green Bay. I was a little bit disappointed by them last year, to be honest. I think Jordan Love didn't take the step forward that many of us expected. Some of the receivers where we were raving about them and saying how many playmakers they had. Now they finally take a receiver in the first round because those guys virtually all underachieved. So they have some things to get back and right now, I would say that even though the game's in Lambeau Field, people are going to get gaslit to say the tush-push game, especially what happens next week. But, I think the Eagles are a better football team. I think they have a chance to win that game. Detroit's interesting because they still have a ton of talent, but you do have to see how it's going to look under new coordinators, especially with Ben Johnson and how successful. It's probably not going to be as creative. We can probably say that. So can they do it in a more conventional fashion? I think so, but you have to see how it looks like, what it looks like. The Eagles got over the Dallas hump. I think 6 years they stopped that where they couldn't win in Dallas. So normally, you think home and home split, and I think that's going to be the case with Washington. But, I think the Eagles have a chance to sweep both the Giants and the Cowboys this year, I would think.
Okay, well, opening night, of course, you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles and Cowboys, that'll be September 4th, 25 years almost to the day. The last time they played in the opener, that was the Pickle Juice game. And I think we talked about it on your show Wednesday. That game kicked off the era of football in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, really, as we know, that game kicked off that 2000 season. They went to the playoffs and really haven't looked back since.
Yeah, and Dallas hasn't opened a season in Philadelphia since 1970.
Wow.
So that's how long it's been since they opened a season here. So, the NFL is clearly shooting for a monster rating to start the season, and they're hyper focused on the teams with the big brand names, Kansas City, Dallas, teams that have passionate fan bases like the Eagles. I think that the league as a whole should be a little bit more proactive to maybe elevate some of the teams that are rising. But, from reading Albert Breer's does a piece every year when he talks to the schedule makers, some of the teams they're high on, Denver was mentioned, and Chicago, I'm not quite as high as they are. So maybe it's good. They just rely on the old faithful.
Yeah, I did read that article about all the different moving parts, and they had to ask teams to agree to certain. People are wondering why the Eagles wouldn't have got back-to-back games. We did look at the Phillies' schedule earlier. They have home games two weekends in September, so it looks like the NFL tries to avoid when the baseball team's at home. I would imagine they have back-to-back road games in October. Maybe they were penciling in Phillies playoff games in those dates, so they sent them on the road for back-to-back weeks. Because we looked at the Kansas City schedule. They have a 3-game homestand at one point of the season, and then late in the year they play another 2-game homestand. Philadelphia, no back-to-back home games at all season long, and they do have 2 times where they will go on the road for back-to-back weeks. But it's hard to get into a little bit of a rhythm if you're every other week you're home away, and it's not all Sunday. So that'll be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, we talked about that, as you mentioned. It's a very habit-based league. But, I think people as a whole don't realize how many moving parts there are to the schedule. And some of the parts are not even, you mentioned baseball games, some of the parts are not even involving football. Albert mentioned a Billy Joel concert. There's concerts and, with a hold on SoFi for a Raiders-Chargers game and a hold on Allegiant Stadium. So they had to go to Monday night. So there's a lot of moving parts that you have to work out. And it not only includes football, it includes everything else that's involved with these types of stadiums and even things like concerts obviously, if it's already scheduled, you can't use the building that day. So it's kind of how it works out. And sometimes there's unique anomalies, and that is, it's never happened before where you haven't had sort of a home stand. But, it means you also don't have 3-game road trips on the road as well. So that's a positive. Sometimes that hurts. And the Eagles, really, if you look at, they're on the road back-to-back twice this year. And the first time they play Thursday at the Giants, so they get extra time before they have to go to Minnesota for a game that's, potentially tougher. And then they have they have the day extra. They have the Saturday game at Washington late in the season, and then the Sunday game the next week at Buffalo. So it's sort of, the home, but, it helps out on some of the road issues that you typically have.
All right. Of course, you can check out John tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, Birds 365. The Eagles' schedule is out, and next will be the OTAs. We'll start taking a look at some of the battles that will be happening towards training camp. It'll be here before we know it. The first preseason game, by the way, on the slate Thursday, August the 7th against the Cincinnati Bengals. John, we'll talk to you, pal.
All right, thanks, Mike.
There's John, of course, here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We got more on the Eagles schedule coming up in just about 12 minutes from now. We'll get Andrew DiCecco's take on some of the quirks that he has seen on the schedule, plus Sal Paolantonio tonight at 5 o'clock. Stick around. More Sports Bash coming up. Thanks to Johnny Mac. 7 minutes from now, Andrew DiCecco talks some more birds with us here. The schedule is out. Sal Paolantonio tonight for our annual day after schedule release conversation at 5 o'clock. If you want to watch the Diamond Classic Final, we'll have it on our website tonight, 973ESPN.com. Mainland takes on Haddonfield. You can watch all the action on the website, 973ESPN.com. You'll be able to watch that on your big screen. Just go to the website on your phone and cast it over to your big screen in your living room. No Phillies tonight. So a perfect night to watch a little Joe Hartman Diamond Classic Final on 973ESPN.com. We've got so much more happening in the next hour. Knicks Nuggets are on the way. Keith Smith earlier on the show said something that has gotten people a little angry and upset. I asked him if he thought the Sixers could bounce back next year if they are healthy, a big if they are healthy, and he said, quote, I think they'd be right back in the mix. You've got to be feeling pretty good about your chances if they are healthy. Big if there. Big if. I also asked him if he thought that Daryl Morey was the right guy to fix this problems that they had this offseason, and he said yes, absolutely, that he thinks Daryl Morey is the right guy to run this Sixers team this offseason, and I agree with him. Do you? 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. To the guy who asked me about the tattoo on his shoulder, you have an appointment tomorrow, and showed me a picture of that tattoo, that's pretty badass, dude. I mean, that thing's pretty awesome. I would say yes to that. Now, I'm not a tattoo guy. I don't have a tattoo. Somebody asked me if I was to get a tattoo. I actually know what I would get. I know what I would get. It's not what this guy's getting, but that thing's pretty darn badass, dude. I give you a yes on that tattoo. Good luck with that, buddy. Show me the final project. Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Andrew DiCecco's here on the day after the Eagles' schedule has been released. A lot of quirks to this schedule. No back-to-back home games, so Andrew doesn't have to spend 2 weeks in a row at Lincoln Financial Field, man. What's happening? How are you, pal?
Hey, I'm doing well, pal. How are you?
All is good, man. It's good to talk to you. Always love chopping up some football with you. Saw the schedule. Obviously, no back-to-back home games. There's a quirk in it right there, right? You don't get these like, hey, couple weeks you get to settle in, be home, and get a couple games at home. So this is going to be a very daunting, challenging, twisting and turning type of schedule this year.
Yeah, initially when I was going through it, the first thing that popped out obviously was the lack of consecutive home games. And obviously that's something that's pretty challenging. I also think that opening the season with Dallas is a little bit of a curious selection there. Usually you have to earn the right to be the team that is playing the defending Super Bowl champions on opening night. But that's the way it goes, and the Eagles have, at least on paper, a favorable Week 1 matchup, and that should allow them to settle into the flow of the season. And, Mike, it's a really tough schedule, and I think that obviously the bye week at Week 9 is something that I made note of because last season a lot was made of them having the earlier bye week, and it turns out that was crucial to their success and propelling them forward. They were able to hit that reset button and get on the same page and kind of reconfigure their strategy. But I think at Week 9, based on what you're seeing, they have games with the Packers and the Lions coming off that bye week. I think that's going to be critical to getting a lot of players healthy at that juncture of the season.
Yeah, that 9th week is the bye week, as you point out there, and it's an interesting spot because they play the Giants, the Vikings, the Giants. Division games 2 out of 3 weeks, and they close the year, Andrew. I don't know that I've ever seen this. You may have done the research or maybe know off the – I have never seen a team have to play the team that was in the NFC Championship game and in the AFC Championship game in 3 consecutive weeks. They're going to have to go on the road to Washington, Buffalo, and then Washington again. Now, the interesting part about the placement of these games is they could mean the division, or Washington could be completely out of it, and Buffalo could have everything wrapped up. So right now it looks like, wow, you've got to play the runners-up in your conference 3 straight weeks, but you could also be at a time of the schedule where those games have little meaning.
Yeah, as far as do I know if that's the first time or anything like that, I wouldn't be the one to ask. I don't know about those schedule quirks. I'm more of the football guy. But what I will say is it's very interesting because that Buffalo game, I've had it highlighted as one of the games I was most looking forward to going to, and that it's late December. That's a frigid temperature is one of the most daunting places to play at that point in the season, and you may not be playing for much at that point, Mike. Neither team, so you have to wonder about the quality of that game, and then the Commanders playing the Commanders, twice in the span of 3 weeks. I think is, I probably would have spaced it out. That's going to be a highly anticipated matchup, and you're pushing it all the way to the back end of the season. And I think that you want to try and see both teams matched up when you know for sure, or you have a better idea that they're going to be at full strength. So I don't quite like how that back end of the season really plays out.
Yeah, that one's a little that's a rough go there. You got a Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas, Chicago Chargers run there. So there's another run right after the bye of teams that, look, Green Bay, you beat in the playoffs. Detroit, they would like to play you because they think they were the better team if not injury. Dallas, we know, is a division game. The Bears are an up-and-coming team. And that Chargers team, another playoff team from last year. All in their cross-division games, Andrew, of the 8 teams they play, 6 of them are playoff teams. So not only is it a challenging, kind of ride through this, the level of opponent this year is significantly better than last year.
Yeah, it sure is, and that's the cost that you pay when you are the defending Super Bowl champions. And I have a story actually coming out, should be later today, where I kind of go through each game. I sort of give a synopsis on what I'm expecting and why I lean one way or the other. And coming out of that bye, Mike, I have the Eagles losing, spoiler alert, to the Packers. I have them winning at home against the Lions, and then I have them winning again, flying out to the West Coast and playing the Chargers. But that Packers game, as you mentioned, that could be really tough because the Packers are coming off a game where they're hosting the lowly Carolina Panthers, so that they should be flying high off of that. And the Eagles have an extended rest period, the bye week, and then they're playing that Monday night. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, looking at some of the quirks and some of the interesting parts. What do you think about getting the Super Bowl rematch right there at the start, week 2, on the road, Kansas City, September 14th?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that. I would like to see that game at least, from the reporter in me later in the season, where you can build up that storyline. You have a better idea of what both teams are at that point. And to kind of have that, it's kind of like the Phillies and the Phillies playing the Dodgers as early as they have. You would like to see them August or September play that team. So it kind of, there's not going to be much of a build up there, but I'm not sure what you can glean out of that game in a week 2 matchup where the Eagles have to go out to Kansas City in a raucous crowd and that type of environment. But yeah, that game doesn't have the same allure to me as it would if it were, placed in the middle of the season.
Yeah, you got Dallas, as you mentioned, to start. Then you got Kansas City. Then you got a divisional round rematch with the Rams. So Kansas City.
I love that. Yeah.
So you got Kansas City, Rams, and at Tampa, which has been like a house of horrors for you. That's a 3-week stretch right there, followed by a Broncos team that's seemingly on the way up there. So that's an interesting 4-game stretch right off the bat there. And whether you think Dallas is, ready to take that step or not, that's a division game. So Dallas, Chiefs, Rams on the road at Tampa, Denver, that's a pretty daunting start.
Yeah, it sure is. And when I look at that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, Mike, obviously, like you said, it's been a house of horrors going out to Raymond James Stadium. At that point in the season, it is going to be extremely hot, and that's something to take into account as well. Todd Bowles and his coaching staff, Larry Foote, and the guys that they have on that coaching staff on the defensive side do a really good job of conjuring a game plan to try and bottle up a prolific Eagles offense, and I would expect that to continue. But when I look at that Broncos game, as I'm sort of assessing the schedule, to me, when you look at how the season could unfold in the early going, I think that's the game at home, 1 o'clock. The Broncos game, they're sort of one of those oppositions that you may not think much of. I think that's where the Eagles are going to start to hit their stride. Sometimes it takes a few weeks because really September is, whether you like it or not, it is viewed as the extension of the preseason in the NFL. So I do believe that game at home against the Broncos at 1 o'clock is going to be where you really start to see what the Eagles are all about.
Well, they didn't get the 2 big holidays, the Thanksgiving and the Christmas Day games, but they did get another standalone game on a Friday. Do you like being in that 3 o'clock Black Friday window?
Yeah, it's a good compromise because we don't have to work Thanksgiving or Christmas, and Black Friday's fine. I mean, it'll be cool and interesting to cover a game on a Friday at 3 o'clock. And the opposition I find them to be pretty interesting because the Bears are an upstart team with Caleb Williams at the helm at quarterback. They have Rome Odunze at wide receiver. They drafted Luther Burden. They drafted Colston Level in the tight end. So there's a lot of young pieces there. DeAndre Swift at running back. And that's a team I can't wait to see how they fare. But I think they're too young to really make much of an impact. I'm not saying the Eagles can kind of sleepwalk through that game, but that's a game where I think the Eagles are going to showcase their veteran prowess and, their penchant for winning and really put that team away. But it will be interesting to cover a game on a Friday for sure.
And that division's brutal, too. All 4 teams in that division have an over-under win total of 9.5 or right around there. So it's 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, 8.5. I mean, right there, that's going to be a very competitive division. Philly's got to play all 4. You got that game against Detroit 2 weeks before that. So Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago, you got to play them 3 out of 4 weeks in there. You got Minnesota right up there as well. We took a look at a lot of teams. You mentioned something about the Rams. When I mentioned the Rams in week 3, they're going to come across the country here where they were last year in that playoff game. But that's a team I think has improved as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll be a good measuring stick type of game, Mike, because they came within a Jalen Carter pressure from potentially knocking the Eagles out of the postseason. Going from the West Coast to the East Coast, that's always a challenging proposition for any team. But I'm curious to see how the Eagles answer that because they have a young secondary. They have someone who I believe is going to start in Drew Makuba playing safety, and we'll have to see who starts at corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. But they're going against a prolific passing attack, which obviously includes Puka Nacua. And I'm curious to see how they're able to kind of navigate that because the Rams do a wonderful job of having a lot of moving parts to their offense. I think that'll be a really good gauge as to how some of these younger players are grasping the defense early on. And by the way, it'll be the return of Britton Covey, by the way, who signed with the Rams about a week ago.
Yeah, they also got Devontae Adams as well out there. Who They changed the Cooper Kupp. They flipped him out, brought in Adams, so different look to their passing game as well. All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, InsideTheBirds.com. You wrote a piece a couple days ago about your 53. There's a couple names that stood out to me that I want to get your take on. One, Danny Gray is one of the 5 receivers on the team. I'm not sure too many people know who Danny Gray is, but you think he might make the 53.
I do, and I don't view it as a hot take because when you really look at it, Mike, beyond the top 3 receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jahan Dotson, nobody really should be considered a lock. Johnny Wilson, he's your blocking receiver. He's, again, entering his second season. They're probably going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Anaya Smith is a slot-only receiver, and if he can't help you as a punt returner, he's going to be given that opportunity. But if he can't help you there, he's sort of one-dimensional. I don't know that you can really count on that. Danny Gray, it was a third-round pick in 2022 of the 49ers. I actually interviewed him for my Draft Dream series a few years ago, and he can absolutely fly. He runs a 4.3. He can play inside. He can play outside, which is key here. And everything that I've gathered last season, talking to different players, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Slay, they all mentioned how much Danny Gray was really making them work in practice, how he was oftentimes getting the better of them. And I remember talking to Danny, and he had a couple routes where he beat Cooper DeJean, and I said, "Are you a quiet guy, or do you let it? Do you kind of let them know about it?" He goes, "Oh, I let them know about it." And believe me, if I was here in training camp, I would have made the 53 because I'm not arrogant or anything. I just know what I bring to the table.
Okay, keep an eye on Danny Gray for the people out there. The other spot I thought interesting, only 2 tight ends, Goddard and Calcaterra. All this talk, they brought in Bryant, Keelan Granson, and you think only the 2 guys that were here last year will make the team.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that, Mike, is because I don't know that you want to just keep 3 tight ends just for the sake of doing so, especially on the defensive side. There are some key young players that I think you might want to find room for to develop. And we talked about the pendulum swinging. Eventually, you're going to have to start paying your defensive guys. So it would behoove the Eagles, in my opinion, to stockpile some of these younger players that show some ability. But 2 tight ends. I mean, Grant Calcaterra is a fine number 2. Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, E.J. Jenkins. We'll have to wait and see. I think you can probably get 2 of the 3, if not all of them, on the practice squad, especially because teams are less likely to try and bring in a player who spent all summer in the offseason learning another offense, so they can't really help you in the immediate future. So it gives them an opportunity to get on the practice squad, and you can elevate them and then eventually sign them and then go heavy elsewhere.
Okay, there's a couple other quirks now on defense. Stick around, everybody, because here comes some big ones. Number 1, you do not have Uche making this team as an edge guy.
Yeah, I've been underwhelmed, and with him over the past couple of years, Mike, and then really I've been underwhelmed when you have to go back to 2022 to go to his most prolific season. I think he's sort of become the player that he really is. He's a situational player. He doesn't really give you much against the run, and if you're comparing him to a player like an Antoine Powell-Ryland, who the Eagles drafted and has a little bit more upside perhaps, I think the Eagles are going to lean in favor of the draft pick. And Bryce Huff, with that contract, he's going to be tough to move. So he has that albatross of a contract. So barring something unforeseen, he's going to be on the roster unless they're able to move him. So it's tough to find a spot for Uche, and I just don't. I'm not in love with the player and his fit really in that defense.
All right, the last one, Dean starting on the PUP list. So it sounds like you think he might not be ready to go at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's such a gruesome injury, and we don't quite know what the timeline is yet. If it were up to Dean, he said he'd be ready for week 1, but it's not up to the player, and that's an injury that does take some time. So I think, in good faith, and I put a lot of time and effort into these 53s, you have to take that into consideration. And it's really hard to foresee Dean being available to start the season, but he will be able to help the Eagles in all likelihood at some point early-ish in the season. But they're going to be really light there at off-ball linebacker to start. They're going to lean heavily on Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and let's not forget, Jahai Campbell might be a little limited because we don't yet know his availability for training camp. He had the shoulder surgery in March, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. It would behoove the Eagles, in my opinion, to add a veteran linebacker to add some competition there in training camp, or just really have somebody there to undertake some reps.
Andrew DiCecco, everybody, football at 4. Check out his full 53-man roster over at InsideTheBirds.com. He's got other great content over there you're going to want to check out, of course, all throughout this offseason. And right here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, my brother, I'll see you soon.
Mike, take care, man.
There's Andrew. All right, Football at 4, Inside the Birds. Of course, here on the Sports Bash, we take it till 6 o'clock tonight. We got the Nuggets on the way. Holy mackerel. The Eagles' schedule is finally out, which means we can start plotting out some things for the fall season. And I do have some information on the fall promotional plans. I'm not going to share with them today, but I do have some things you're going to want to know. You're going to want to keep listening this week, and I will potentially leak out there. So I'm going to do a schedule leak myself. You know what else I'm going to be doing? All right. On Fridays during the football season, I do my Friday 5. So what I'm going to do on Fridays in the offseason, leading up to the season, I'm going to do the Friday 5. We'll start with week 1 and work our way to week 18. And I'm going to do my Friday 5 of what I think the 5 best games are. And then when we actually get to the season, I will compare the games that I think are the best 5 games now and see how they're different by the time we get to that week. Like week 1 of the NFL season I will do tomorrow. I haven't really seen the whole, like how they broke out week by week, but I do know like Monday Night Football in week number 1 is I think it's the Bears and is it the Bears and the Vikings? I think it's a Monday night game. Now, is that in my Friday 5? I got to see what else is on the schedule because I know you got Ravens-Bills is the Sunday night game in week 1. I can tell you right now, my Friday 5 in May is going to include that game. And I'm assuming by the time we get to week 1, my Friday 5 is not going to change all that much. But we will compare my Friday 5 in the spring and summer versus my Friday 5s when we get to the fall and see how they differ. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Josh, no Phils tonight. What do you got?
Like, what am I watching tonight?
Yeah, what's the big? You going NBA? You hockey right now?
Oh, of course, I'm a hockey guy.
I know. I'm saying. So are you going Denver OKC tonight?
Yes.
Or are you going hockey?
Both. You got to flip it. Got to go back and forth. For me, I can't deny the fact that it's Jokic versus SGA tonight. You can't not watch
that series has been great. I tried to the other night. I did make it all the way to the end, and I hope to do that again tonight. No Phils tonight, so I'll probably be pretty locked in on that game.
I got to tell you, it was pretty wild last night when the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights went to overtime 0-0, and the Oilers won in overtime to get to the second straight Western Conference Finals. So the hockey playoffs have been on my radar as well.
I haven't seen a puck drop.
It's a bad job by you.
I know. Just anytime the Phillies don't play, I try to get away from taking over the television with. I can't certainly take it over with hockey.
Why not?
Oh, I got other people. You're
saying your significant other hates hockey?
Yeah, she's not. I've got her into basketball. I've got her into baseball. She likes football.
Hockey's where she draws the line.
Well, the Flyers haven't been good in the entire time we've been together. They have not been good enough where, I think she gets into, the playoffs and, some of those. We haven't had a chance to watch a Flyer. If the Flyers make the playoff, that I might be able to entice
her a little bit?
I'll introduce her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Give her the option?
Yeah, Rick Tocchet. They're going to get me back to the playoffs or what? Tomorrow at 10:30, Rick Tocchet will have his introductory press conference, and we'll air that for you on the Sports Bash tomorrow right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 426, time for Nick's Nuggets today. They're brought to you by the Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. A lot to dive into. Eagles' schedule was out kind of yesterday, but it became official last night. We talked about how we don't like the leaks, and you saw that happened yesterday. But we do have today's Nuggets with a whole bunch going on. Phils lose. Nola looks poor again. You got the schedule, a lot of Sixers stuff. Flyers have a new head coach. What else we got? Where are we going today?
Listen, Mike, there's a lot of nuggets to choose from today. The barbecue sauce, a lot of dipping sauces you could choose from today. So we're going to dip into the Phillies first, and we're going to dip into Aaron Nola. I mean, there was no way I couldn't start without talking about Nola yesterday. How frustrating was yesterday's loss and the way he pitched? 3 2/3 yesterday. I mean, gave up just 9 earned runs, a ton of base hits. I don't even want to say how many hits he gave up because it was egregious. It was in the double digits.
12.
You didn't need to say it. I was going to be nice. I was going to be nice today, Mike. You didn't need to say it. But, I mean, this is a problem for him. And Aaron Nola, they go up 5-1 in the first. You had a 4-run lead to pretty much start the game. And you give it up right away in the third inning. It completely falls apart. And just some numbers on Nola this year. I mean, he's given up 11 home runs, third most in Major League Baseball this year. And if you look at some of more of the advanced metrics, the hard hit rate is really concerning to me because it was at 38.2% last year. It has risen to 43.6% right now. Guys are barreling up the baseball a ton against Aaron Nola this season. And this was a concern a couple of years ago. He was giving up all those home runs at 30 home runs last year, but at 32, he gave up a ton more in the early part of the season. This is a problem once again. Guys are getting the barrel to the baseball and hitting baseballs hard across the yard right now, Mike Gill. He's got to figure it out at this point. And by the way, Marchand wasn't his catcher. So it's not a Marchand Realmuto thing. It's an Aaron Nola thing.
Yeah, I think last night was a little bit concerning because it looks like the fastball, he doesn't trust it now. He's saying, my gosh, if I throw that thing up there, it's going to get hit hard. He's giving up the long ball, which has been a problem for him in the past. But, last night it almost felt like he knew another one was coming. I think what he gave up 3 last night, maybe 4?
3 home runs, 3.
3 home runs last night. Walker gave up the other one, your boy. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it is a concern. And the biggest question becomes is if this concern doesn't go away, how do you handle it? What do you do with him? I mean, you're not banishing him to the bullpen. No. He's not getting demoted to AAA. So what do you do? And by the way, he is signed for the next 7 years, 6?
Yeah, because it was a 7-year contract when they gave it to him. So it was before last season. So 6 more seasons, including this one, I guess, right?
Yep, and he's got about $20 million a year on that deal. So, I mean, you're taking a look at a guy right now who is really struggling. I don't think it's like, he doesn't have the velocity. He's never been a hard thrower, so he's not like he's dipped from 98 down to 92. That's just who he's been. He's just leaving stuff out over the plate, and it's getting hit.
Yeah, I mean, he even expressed it after the game last night that, this can't happen. I mean, this can't happen if you're Aaron Nola going out there, giving up this many home runs. Guys are really hitting the baseball. Gave up a lot of hits, 12 last night. So, I mean, listen. For Aaron Nola, I think, we've seen this before, right? Like a couple of years ago, he had the rough start to the year, was giving up a lot of home runs early on. He's good to give up probably like 1 a game. He has that one Aaron Nola bad inning. But then he turns it on late in the year and, he becomes that big-time pitcher. He finds a way to get into a groove. I just think this is just the Aaron Nola experience. He might start out a little slow. He's going to have some rocky starts here and there. But then there's going to be times where he looks like an ace. He's ace-like. And I've been a big Aaron Nola defender throughout his career. I mean, he's got it in him to be an ace. So I think it'll happen at some point, but this is just the Nola coaster that we're used to for the most part. But the concern is giving up those hard-hit base hits, and that's what's happening right now. Guys are barreling up the baseball. He's not going to blow it past you, but he's got to stop missing his spots. And I don't think it's a catcher thing at all because we were talking about it yesterday. We've talked about it multiple times. Marchand was his catcher, and he wasn't pitching well. You give him a chance to have Realmuto behind the dish again, and it still didn't work out. It was even worse than having Marshawn behind the dish.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, I'm not watching him and saying this guy's cooked. Like, I don't think he looks like a guy who's just, like, completely done. I just think he's got some flat stuff right now that he just needs to kind of work his way through. The question is, how much rope do you have for him when Painter's ready? You have a lot of options. You don't have to keep throwing him, but you also signed this guy. He's been a huge part of your organization. Yeah. You don't want to embarrass or humiliate the guy. So what do you do with him? The Phillies have a tough spot with him coming up here if he doesn't turn it around.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, people are calling for him to go to the bullpen. You can't send Aaron Nola to the bullpen right now with that contract, for what he's meant to this organization. I know he's not pitching well right now. It is May 15th, so we could pump the brakes a little bit. We've seen this before. It's the Nola coaster. It's why we call it the Nola coaster, because he could take you on a ride for a little while and it gets bumpy, but sometimes it'll smooth out. And that's going to happen, I think, at some point with Nola, because we've seen it before. Listen, he has been a horse for this organization, pitching all these innings for all of these years. It could be catching up to him. I don't think it is. I think he'll find a way, because he's had a start or two where it's been pretty good. So I'm not out on Aaron Nola. We can't just jump to a conclusion a month and a half into the season and send Aaron Nola to the bullpen. He's got a big time contract. He's pitched in big games for you. He's pitched well for you before. He's eaten a lot of innings. You can't just jump ship right away here with Aaron Nola. Can't do it.
No, you can't do it yet. But I wonder what happens when you're ready to bring Painter up. I agree. You're not sending him to the bullpen. That's just not, what you do in these type of situations. Is it one of those things where, hey, we need to shut him down? He's got like a sore shoulder. That's probably the route they would go first before anything drastic.
Yeah, and maybe there's something going on that we're not privy to yet. You don't know. I mean, there's been no indication that's been the problem. As right this second, there's nothing, they put out there last night or anything. So, I think it's just, you're going to have to go through your ups and downs to Aaron Nola. And, I know Painter's waiting in the wings and people want to see him. You have a lot of good pitchers on this team, and he just says he's dropped the ball.
By the way, Painter pitching tonight.
Yeah.
So no Phillies tonight, but you could try to check out. Painter pitching tonight. I think it's a 6:30 or 6:45 start they play their game? I think it's 6:45 they play.
Yeah, so Painter will be on tonight. I don't know. Are you tuning in? Are you going basketball, hockey? I heard you asking Josh earlier. Are you catching up on a show? No Phils tonight. What are you going, Michael? What's on the Mike Gill palette tonight?
Well, last week I did tune in. It was a free game on the MILB app, so I did watch the game for the first couple innings to watch Andrew Painter. 6:35 is the start time, by the way. So I probably will check in on Painter at least for the first. What's he going tonight? 4 innings or 70? What is it? 70 or 75 pitches tonight?
Right. Yeah, I think it's right around there. They're not gonna, remember we talked about it. They're not gonna waste his innings down in AAA. They want to get him up as quick as possible. So 3 innings, 4 innings. Monitor the pitch count. It's gonna be fascinating. I'm gonna try and tune into that too for a little bit. We're gonna put out a new episode of The Shift tonight, talking about Pete Rose. Around I think 6-ish. We'll be going live on the Twitter X platform. So something to check out as well. All right, moving along. Nugget number 2. I want to talk about Daryl Morey. I mean, they're just making their rounds, the Sixers organization right now. He was on John Clark's podcast. I know you guys talked about it a little bit earlier. I want to play this one clip from the podcast. And John Clark asked him the question, and Daryl Morey talked about needing a title. Take a listen to Daryl Morey here on John Clark's podcast.
What do the Sixers need at this point, in your opinion?
I mean, we need a championship. So I would say, we're not looking at the draft for need. We're going to do that. Address that through free agency and through other means as well.
All right. So I take from that, we need a championship. I mean, Daryl Morey needs a championship. It's the only thing he doesn't have at this point. Doesn't have a championship. Sixers haven't gotten past the second round since 2001. They're kind of like the Cowboys of the NBA, essentially, with how their success has gone over the past 20 to 25 years. But this team needs a championship. But the one thing from that clip that I take, Mike, is that they're going to address other needs in free agency. They don't have a lot of money. So are they going to get creative? Are they going to move on from certain guys? there's not a lot of a wiggle room there to address stuff in free agency. So the drafts, your big splash that you have to make.
Yeah, but you know what? This is why I said I'll take Daryl Morey being the guy navigating me through the offseason, because I think Daryl Morey can figure out ways to make moves. I think he's the guy that says, hey, I've got this guy opted into his deal. He makes $8 million. Why don't I give him to you? Now you have an expiring contract. I think he's a guy that can get creative enough to figure out ways to help this team out, even though they don't have the money to spend. That's why Morey is very good at his job. You might not like some of the results that this team has had. You might not like some of the results his Houston teams have had, as Keith Smith said earlier. Hey, listen, they ran into one of the historically great teams of our time, the Golden State Warriors. But these are the reasons why I would take Daryl Morey running the team in this situation, because I think he is creative enough to come up with ways to make this team better under the limitations they have. That's what he did really good when he got here, right? They had a mess when they got here, bad contracts. He figured out ways to get out of them. So I think he'll figure out ways to do some things to make this team better than they were. And remember, at the beginning of last year, they had the third best odds to win a title. So it wasn't like people thought this team was lousy. Many people, including Vegas, liked this team. And I think they'll be better.
I think they'll be better. It all depends on the health of the big fella, Paul George, Maxey. It's all on the health. I mean, that's really it. I mean, this is a solid team. We know there's really good players on this team. They just can't stay on the court. And it's been frustrating, because you have an MVP level player in Joel Embiid, one of the best players we've seen. All right. The guy can play like a guard at center. We know he can get there. We know he has it in him. It's just the knee issue, and they got really deep into this on John's podcast regarding, they talked to between 9 and 12 doctors for the knee. And you just feel for the guy, because he's got it in him. And if he could just stay healthy, same with Paul George, same with Tyrese Maxey. If they can get that core to play a majority of the season, you are in good shape. So I want to talk about that one bite that we just played. I wonder if that's an indication to show that Morey's going to be aggressive and creative throughout the offseason. I wonder if you're going to see trades. I wonder if you're going to see moving off certain players and trying to wiggle his way out of certain contracts. That's what I took from that little bite there, is that they're going to try and get very creative. I know they have the pick, but outside of that, how creative are they going to be able to get with their cap situation?
I don't know. I mean, look, they have some really interesting contracts with the Drummond if he opts back in, the Gordon if he opts back in, even Kelly Oubre. I mean, hey, he opts back in. You could say, hey, we want Kelly Oubre here. That's a guy. He might say, hey, I could use him as a guy that I could trade away because he's got an attractive contract. So those three guys are definitely high on the list. Could he break up the Maxey McCain? I don't think he will, but it's a possibility. He's got that card he could possibly play. As Kevin Pelton told us on the show the other night, he doesn't think that other teams will have to pick up the phone to call Morey, because Morey will be active on the phone calling everybody. He's in an interesting spot. San Antonio, you've got a lot of guards. If you want to move back, I'm here for you. Other teams, if you want me to move back and you want number 3, I'm open for business. So Philadelphia, having the season that they have, they weren't bad because they were just a bad team. Their team got into the lottery based on the fact that they were beat up, injured, which now means they got all those guys coming back, and they're saying, look, we're not a bad team that we need this lottery pick. This lottery pick is an asset for us, because this player at number 3, he's not going to be better than Maxey. He's not going to be better than Paul George. He's not going to be better than Embiid. Probably not McCain. So what kind of impact is he going to have right away? We'll listen to see what you have to offer us to help us maybe quicker. So that's why I think they are in a very interesting spot.
They're in a unique spot. And, on the show, he kind of indicated they're going to keep the pick. They're going to take the best player available there. And it's up to Nick Nurse to really figure out what he wants to do with that said player, whoever they take. It seems like they're going to keep the pick, but if you move back, could you get someone that you could filter in right away? I know there's people out there that love Ace Bailey, that hate Ace Bailey. I think he's a project. I think he can contribute now. I mean, I don't know. It depends how they want to go about this, but having a third pick, you're in a unique spot, and you kind of hold a lot of cards there in the draft because you kind of figure we know who's going number 1. You know who's really probably going to go number 2 with the Spurs. And then 3, you kind of hold the cards, and that's kind of when the draft starts, right? It's like number 3 is really when that draft is going to get going, and he is in a unique spot. If he wants to trade it, if he wants to keep it, do whatever he wants because you know you have a playoff caliber roster coming back based upon all the injuries. If everyone stays healthy, you're going to be in the mix again.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I'll add to that mix is that the fact that you have that third pick in the draft, and like I said, we talked to Keith Smith earlier. He talked about the 2 guys at number 3, VJ Edgecombe. He said, ready defender. You could draft him right now. He could help you out defensively. He might not help you out as a scorer all that much. Do you need a scorer? Do you need a wing defender? Do you say, hey, let's add a guy like that, work on his offense. We don't need him offensively right off the bat, but we could use a guy that can defend. He said he's a kind of a Quentin Grimes type of player, very athletic, but more of an on-ball defender. The other guy, Ace Bailey, he said he's an NBA scorer, but not a lockdown type of defender, not a playmaker. He's just a guy. Bad shot selection. Ace Bailey, to me, screams high-scoring player, bad team. That's what he screams to me, right? When I say Ace Bailey, he's the highest-scoring guy on the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he is really, put this fan base and the discussion, it's just totally split on Ace Bailey. But it's like, yeah, you have Edgecombe too, who could probably help you more so right this second next year. So do you take the step back? Do you trade back? Seems like they're going to keep the pick, but do you trade back and maybe say, hey, maybe we can find another player a little later that can be more of a contributor right now? Bailey, a good scorer. Are we going to be able to utilize him? I don't know. Is he more of a project? That's kind of where you're at if you're Daryl Morey. It's a big decision because you also are making this pick looking ahead, too, with like the after the Joel Embiid era, after the Paul George. This player is going to be here for a while when you're heading into that new stadium, right? So that's kind of something else you have to think about, too.
Well, obviously, you have another possibility, too, is as Keith Smith threw out at us, he threw a bunch of different scenarios. He said, listen, you could have a team like New Orleans who says, look, we just want to get out of the Zion deal.
Yeah.
We'll take the third pick in the draft. So you got to be willing to be open to almost everything because of where you are. Hey, we have a player who makes a lot of money that we just don't want anymore. We want to start over. If somebody else out there views Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe or somebody else as their next franchise player, but we have to get rid of this number off our books to do it, that's another possibility you have to keep in mind.
Listen, I threw out a few weeks ago Kevin Durant. It's just a name. Maybe the Suns. They have no draft picks either. So I'm just saying they're a name to watch. Just keep an eye on it, I would say. That could be interesting too. All right. I want to move along, talk a little football, a little schedule. Yeah, we finally got the real schedule. It's out. I don't know. Does everyone like those videos that everybody puts out? The Eagles was just kind of the Lombardi Trophy, which is pretty cool. The Chargers, they made fun of. The Chargers always have a good video for the schedule release. They put out a clip of like the Eagles fans or Eagles going down Broad Street in like a Minecraft way. It was like Minecraft themed. And they had up a picture up on the I guess a building technically that said, "Where is Podcast P?" I thought that was pretty funny. That was hilarious.
I saw the Bills, the Bills one with AI. I saw that one.
Yeah. So they went AI, but yes, the Chargers, they had a Minecraft themed video, had like the Eagles going down Broad Street, and they had a banner that said, "Where is Podcast P?" essentially on one of the buildings, which is pretty funny. But with that, out of all of the road games, Mike Gill, that the Eagles have, I want to know, where is the best one to travel to? Out of all the road games the Eagles are playing this year, what week it fits everyone's schedule? What's the best road game? If you're going to a road Eagles game this year, what's the best one to go to?
I would imagine Lambeau, right? Their road schedule's not great. You have the Chiefs early. You got Tampa Bay. Like, listen, I love Tampa. It's going to be nice down there, but you don't really need to leave here to go to Tampa in September. It's too hot there. It's beautiful here. Minnesota in October, I mean, it's probably okay, but, Minnesota, I'm probably going Lambeau. I would imagine Lambeau, or if you want to go see SoFi. If you haven't seen SoFi, December 8th, L.A. Chargers, that's probably your game right there that you're saying, hey, I want to see that stadium one time. I might never get back out there. Let me go check out. And now that game's on a Monday night, too.
Yeah.
So you get the Monday nighter there. The Green Bay game is also a Monday night. So the two games that have the most interest, I would rank them probably going to see Lambeau, going to see SoFi, Kansas City, Minnesota. I went to Minnesota for the Super Bowl, but I didn't even see the stadium. I was at the mall the whole time. That would be 4. Buffalo in December is not very attractive, I can tell you that much, but I would like to see a game at Rich Stadium. I have seen Rich Stadium, but I was not there for a game. I drove by there one time.
I need you to be out in the tailgate parking lot, go jumping through tables. That's what I need in the snow, Mike.
Oh, an Eagles-Bills tailgate lot would be epic.
And I need it to be snowing. Going through the tables, snow. Oh, that's gonna be brutal though. Because it could snow around that time. It's gonna be freezing. December 28th against Buffalo, Week 17. That's gonna be a rough one. I think I'm with you. I think the Chargers is. I guess I'm kind of with you because that's second on your list. I mean, Chargers, December 8th, Monday night, SoFi. You can easily take over that stadium. No, there's no Chargers fans. There's about 4 Chargers fans across the country. That's an easy one to take over. So I'd go seeing SoFi, Chargers. You get to see Herbert a little bit. That's going to be a fun game. I'd go Chargers. That would be my ideal game to go visit, go on the road, travel, go to an Eagles road game. I think the Chargers in Week 14, Monday Night Football, that's the one. I'm also a little, because the Super Bowl is at SoFi in 2 years. So Green Bay's never getting a Super Bowl. I have no other reason to ever go out there. So I'm still going Green Bay over SoFi because I might have other reasons to go to L.A. My buddy lives. So I don't need to go see the Chargers-Eagles game. So I'm going to drop that down a little bit. Vikings is enticing to me personally. My dad's a Vikings fan. So that would be a fun one to go in October. It's not probably as cold. That's a brand new stadium. You won the Super Bowl in that stadium as well. It's another reason I think Minnesota would be a good one. Lambeau, that's a classic. That's an easy one. But I think Chargers, Week 14, Vikings, Week 7. Those are the two I'm eyeing. I'm eyeing them up as, maybe I take a little weekend vacation, do the Nuggets from one of those areas.
Well, I do. Listen, Kansas City, a buddy of mine works in Kansas City that I used to work with years ago. Kansas City's a great town, great food town, too. So you want to go do a little barbecue, you go out to Kansas City, get some ribs or something, man. Do a little barbecue, bang, you go out to Kansas City. I love Tampa, too. The city's great. Go over to Clearwater, but I'm down there all the time, so I really don't need to do that. Yeah, Minnesota, I wish I would have got downtown to see the city. I do hear it's a really cool city, especially in the summertime, but October 19th, that was the coldest place I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, that would interest me. October, it might not be as cold yet, but I think Minnesota Chargers, the 2 road games, I'd be eyeing if I'm a fan going to watch the game on the road. All right, it's a 3-pack of Nuggets for you today, Mike Gill.
What are you going with tonight? What are you watching tonight? No Phils. What are you going with? You going with a little Painter early? Then what? Josh said he's going hockey.
We're going shift at 6:00. We're doing the stream. I'll probably go a little bit of Painter tonight. I got to watch NBA playoffs tonight.
Yeah, it's a great series. Denver, Oklahoma City's been a really good.
Yes, it has.
That's been a really good one. Check that out. By the way, tomorrow night you got another Celtics-Knicks game to chew on as well. So bang on that. You got hopefully. Now I don't even know who I'm rooting for. Now that the Celtics have lost Tatum, I'm almost pulling for them now.
Let's get it clear. I'm not rooting for either one. I can't stand either franchise, but
me neither. I'm just saying. Now that Tatum is out, and I don't wish that upon anyone, but I don't want to see the Knicks go to the final. And I figure if the Celtics advance, that the Pacers would probably have a better shot at knocking off a Tatumless Celtics. So this way, the Celtics and the Knicks would both be out.
I like it. I like the way you're thinking. I'm with you. I don't.
You know, my dad. You know, my
anywhere.
dad told me last night the Sixers have let him down so many times. He's cheering for the Knicks.
Oh no, you can't ever cheer for the Knicks. That
The
North
Nova
fan base.
The Nova Knicks,
I
man. The
don't
Nova
care.
Knicks.
I don't care. It's the New York Knicks. It's
That
the New
game's
York
tomorrow
Knicks.
night on 97.3 ESPN. That is today's Knicks Nuggets. Thanks, man.
Peace.
All right, they're brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. Sal Paolantonio. Nobody works harder than Sal Pal during the football season, but even in the off season, he's about to jump on board the Sports Bass live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and we will have our annual day after the schedule release breakdown of the Eagles' schedule. We'll get all Sal Pal's quirks of this schedule and how he sees it all playing out. That's coming up next, right here on the Sports Bass live on 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the show has been brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation. For generations, call 609-390-3907, online, broadlees.net. Sal Pal joins me next. All right, final hour of the show. It's the big 5 o'clock drive home. Sal Paolantonio, the matchup show on ESPN, their national correspondent, set to join me now. The Eagles' schedule, it is out. It is official. And Sal will not have to be in Philly for 2 weeks in a row. That might be a bad thing. He might want to be in Philly 2 weeks in a row. They do not have back-to-back home games on the schedule this year. They are playing on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Monday. Very few Sundays. Some in there. We'll get Sal Paolantonio's take of the Eagles' 2025 slate. It looks like a Super Bowl champion slate here, Sal. They're all over the place. No back-to-back home games, though. That was one thing that a lot of people have pointed out to me today. How are you, pal?
Oh, I'm doing good, Michael. It's an annual tradition for me to be on your show the day after the schedule release, and I'm honored to be on your show and talk about the 2025 Eagles schedule. It's a tough schedule. We have to be honest about that. It is definitely tough, and they got no love whatsoever from the NFL schedule makers. I think the no back-to-back home games is absurd. You're the Super Bowl champ. I'm going to just say it. You're the Super Bowl champs, Mike, and you look at the Kansas City Chiefs last year, they were back-to-back several times at home as the Super Bowl champs. So that's the love that you give to a Super Bowl champ. You give them the opportunity to string together some home wins, and the Eagles don't have that. You know, I think it's a tough schedule made a lot harder by the NFL schedule makers. They did not get treated like a Super Bowl champ.
Kansas City got 3 straight home games at one point, and then late in the year they have a couple of games back-to-back there. So Kansas City got treated like a Super Bowl champ, even though they're the runners-up. And we're going to see Philly and Kansas City early. We'll dive into that and the schedule in just a couple of seconds. The only other quirk that I saw in the schedule is the opener. They're playing the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't done that since the Pickle Juice game, and we'll talk a little bit about that game in itself, the game this year. But Sal, I was talking about when I saw the schedule in Dallas being that first game and that Pickle Juice game, it really kicked off the era of Eagles football as we now know it. I mean, almost 25 years to the day they will play that game. September 3rd, 2000, they win that game 41-14, and an era of Eagles football was born.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. There was definitely a watershed moment in the Jeffrey Lurie ownership of the Philadelphia Eagles. But, you know, you really got to go back to 1970, 55 years ago. If you go on my Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN, I lay it out there. The last time the Cowboys visited the Eagles, week 1, was 1970 at Franklin Field. That's how unusual it is for the Eagles to get a home opener against the Dallas Cowboys. So it's very unusual, but I like it. I like it a lot.
A lot of people, Sal, have pointed out that the Cowboys, who have not won a Super Bowl in over 30 years, will get to watch the banner and have to have them suffer in your building, and that will be worth the price of admission alone.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I like that part of it. Can you imagine that Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott and Stephen Jones and all of them are going to be there when the banner goes up? That is, I mean, the Cowboys haven't been in the NFC Championship game since we were using VCRs.
Well, I don't know if they're ready to do it again, but we will start there on a Thursday night. I have to imagine Sal Pal will be in the building for a Cowboys-Eagles game, 8:20 at Lincoln Financial Field with all the live reports, and it will be the first in a line of 17 games starting on Thursday night for all the world to see.
It is a privilege, I'll tell you, Michael, to be covering the Eagles at this point in professional football in the city of Philadelphia and the region. You know, I've been doing it for 33 years. It's a total privilege. I'm humbled to do it, and I'll definitely be there. I got a text from my boss yesterday on May 14th. Book it, Sal Pal. You're at the Eagles on. I got the text. I showed it to my wife. She said, "Does he know what date it is?" I said, "Listen, they're so excited at ESPN for the NFL schedule release. They're getting prepared. So I'm doing the Eagles, and then I'm traveling up from exit 4 on the Jersey Turnpike the Exit 16W, and I am doing the Steelers at the Jets, 1 o'clock on Sunday. It's beautiful, Michael. I barely have to leave my home area at all. I don't have to go to Brazil. It's so fantastic. I don't have to go on a plane and go to Brazil. So I'm excited about week 1. I'm certainly excited about them starting against Dallas. It'll be nice. You know, there won't be any more excuses because Dak Prescott will be available to play in the game. And I think that's partially the reason why they had him come in week 1. It's like, you know, they want to get a big Cowboys-Eagles rating. Let's do it early in the season when we know Dak Prescott's not hurt.
Yeah, it'll be the first time you get a Dak Hurts game, and man, who even remembers the last time those two teams, quarterbacks, squared off there? But yeah, obviously Dallas starts the season there. So, all right, let's go on the journey here for the people. By the way, we got that breaking news right here on the Sports Bash. Sal Pal will be covering the game for ESPN, and of course, right here on the Sports Bash Live. You got Dallas and Philadelphia Thursday night. That kicks off the season. Let's take the people on the journey. How do we see that game going?
That's a win, Michael. That is a win. It'll be highly emotional. Putting up the banner in front of your division rival, that's a total win. Then you go to Kansas City, and this is the one that really irks me. Again, because while you're still trying to reconfigure your defense, you got to get on a plane. I realize it's 10 days later. You got to get on a plane, and you got to play the Super Bowl all over again. This is a tough game, week 2 in Kansas City. But, you know, you take the NFL schedule in 4-game chunks. That's what Dick Vermeil always told me. So I think the Eagles, last year the Eagles started 2-2 after 4 games. I got them starting 3-1. I think they lose to Kansas City. They beat the Rams, and this time they go down and they beat the Bucs on September 28th. And so they're 3-1. And they will still have the messaging that was held over from the loss last year in Tampa that Nick Sirianni delivered to his team, which is embrace the adversity because this is a schedule full of adversity. The Broncos are a hot team. They'll come into the league. The Eagles will beat them. It'll be 4-1. They'll go up the turnpike, beat the Giants. They'll be 5-1. They'll be 6-1 then when they beat J.J. McCarthy on October 19th in Minnesota. Then they play the Giants. They'll be 7-1 at the bye, Michael. That is my prediction.
Yeah,
7-1 at the bye.
I've got a 2-2 start. Dallas and the Rams wins. They have not won in Tampa in such a long time. Soupy hot down there. Another loss, 2-2. And then I could see them winning those 4 games in a row. Denver, Giants, which is a Thursday night, Minnesota, and the Giants again. So that means I have them at 6-2. You have them at 7-1. Then out of the bye, Sal Pal, they got a gauntlet of games here out of the bye with these NFC North teams.
They do, but, you know, I mean, obviously playing in Green Bay on a Monday night will also be an emotional game. And we're going to get the decision on the brotherly shove here within the next week. The NFL owners are meeting in Minneapolis next week to decide the fate of the tush push and brotherly shove for the 2025 season. And boy, oh boy, wouldn't it be great if the NFL owners table it once again and the Eagles run the tush push on 60 offensive plays. That would be absolutely fantastic. Go up the Lambeau and turn back the clock, back to the future, run the tush push 60 straight times, and make the entire national television audience go out of their minds, Michael, at Lambeau Field. You could just hear Vince Lombardi out of the grave. What the hell's going on out there?
That, by the way, would be on your network, an ESPN ABC Monday Night Football game on Monday, November the 10th. So they go to Green Bay and just tush push down the field for a win?
You know, I'm obviously being a little facetious, but I'm not sure what's going to happen on Thursday, but I do know this. There's a lot of people at the NovaCare facility that are not happy about the Green Bay Packers being at the forefront of banning this play. And the Eagles, coming out of the bye, will be up for that game. And I have them beating the Packers in Green Bay on Monday, November 10th.
We agree on that one. This next one here, this would be a Big one, December 16th at home. It is a Sunday night game. The Lions, many of them said, hey, if we would have been healthy, it would have been us. They wanted to play the Eagles in the kickoff of the season. They'll get their chance, though, here in week number 11.
Well, the Lions are an interesting story because they lost both of their coordinators. And so by November 16th, if the Lions have got their act together with their two coordinators changing, they'll be a tough out. But they're playing in Philly. The Lions are a different team outdoors. I got the Eagles winning that game, Michael. I got the Eagles winning that game. I do. I realize short week and coming back playing a tough opponent, but it's tough to beat the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field in a nationally televised game. I have the Eagles winning that game, no question. And going back, if I could, to the first 4 games of the season, which I think are the toughest. They were the toughest last year. And I mentioned Nick Sirianni's messaging coming out of that game in Tampa, which I wrote about at SJ Magazine in that piece that I sent you, Sal Paolantonio to the Super Bowl. The game that the season from Brazil to New Orleans. And in that piece, I talked about how Nick Sirianni, in a meeting coming out of the game in Tampa, told the team to embrace adversity all the way. And it was great messaging. And he'll have to do that once again. But the other thing that they're going to have to do, knowing that they have so much change on defense and a change in the play caller on offense, Kellen Moore gone to New Orleans and Kevin Patullo calling plays at the NFL level for the first time, they really are going to have to push the fast forward button in training camp. They really are going to have to shorten the learning curve in training camp to get up to speed so they can go 3-1 out of the gate. And I think by the time they hit their stride, which is in November, they will be really, really difficult to beat. Going to Dallas, I realize on November 23rd is always tough. If Prescott's healthy, I'm counting that as a loss. But then I've got them going, beating Chicago, beating the Chargers. They always play well in L.A., always.
Yep.
And the Eagles fans travel to L.A. That's a Monday night game. That'll be a showcase for Eagles Nation on Monday Night Football in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. I have them beating Las Vegas, and then I have them beating Washington, and then who knows what's going to go on for the rest of the season. I think this team has the chance to, even with this tough schedule, and no love from the NFL schedule makers, I think this team's got 12 or 13 wins in this schedule. I do.
Yeah, you and I are pretty much in the same there. I got the loss in Dallas as well. Bears, I think, is going to be pesky this year, much better than they've been. That division is going to be wild there. What about that Caleb Williams book stuff that's coming out is pretty wild about the state of that Bears franchise. The Chargers, I agree. Not a daunting place to play. Vegas, that team's not ready yet. I think Washington on Saturday, Washington always gets you seemingly, even when they're not a good team. They seem to play well against you. The Buffalo, Washington, I said this before, I don't know that it's ever happened, that you play the teams that were the runner-up for the conference 3 straight weeks. I mean, if those games do matter, that is a daunting possibility. But I think by the end of the year, Buffalo has the division wrapped up. Now, they might have the 1 seed still in play, so that game might come into play. But I think, late in the year, I think you get Washington once, they get you once. The Buffalo game's a wild card. I got about 4 losses, possibly 5.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Michael. I am. I think this is a tough schedule. But I think the way Nick Sirianni coached this team last year proved that he is a great head coach, not a good one, great one. Vic Fangio in his second year, a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things that's going to go on with that defense. But in his second year, I think he'll turn them around pretty quickly in training camp. Again, I believe the messaging will be, hey, training camp will be very important this year. 5 or 6 new players on defense. New play caller on offense. Training camp will be very important. Rest the veterans, embrace adversity, shorten the learning curve on everything, and make sure that you're ready to go 3-1 in the first 4 games.
The one question I will ask you about the coordinator, Patullo, he has a pass game coordinator background. Do you think they will have a propensity to lean on the pass more this year and not wanting to give Barkley over 340 touches again this year? Do you anticipate that they may throw the ball more this year?
No, I don't necessarily believe it will be a philosophy. I believe it will be a game-by-game contingency. You're playing in succession 4 teams that can score. Dallas, Kansas City, the Rams, the Bucks. And the Denver Broncos, by the way, were 10th in the league in scoring last year. 10th in the league in points scored. So the Denver Broncos, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that were in the top 10 in points scored. So you will have to definitely throw the football. Then you play the Giants. Minnesota, I don't know what they're doing with that quarterback situation, and the Giants. So you'll have a little bit of a lull. And they realized last year when they had problems offensively, you just give it to Saquon. And you just give it and give it and give it to him until he breaks free and goes for a couple of those back-breaking runs on on the other team's defense. So, they'll have plenty of opportunity to throw the ball early. But I think as the season progresses and they become much more confident defensively, they'll go back to 26.
Well, we're looking forward to that. And obviously the whole season unfolds right here on 97.3 ESPN, your home for Philadelphia Eagles football. Sal Pal, as always, the day after that Eagles game schedule is announced, we break it all down for you. Of these road games, Sal, do you have a favorite spot? Do you like Kansas City, Tampa, Giants, Vikings, Green Bay, Dallas, Chargers? Where do you like it? Where's your favorite road spot?
There's so many good ones on this schedule, Michael. If I had to rank them, just strictly because I'm a hedonist and I like to hang out in Tampa. You know me. I love Tampa. I love it. And now because they're playing baseball during the regular season down there at George Steinbrenner Field, you want to go hang out in Tampa, and everybody in Philly loves to go hang out in Tampa when it's cold, but it's September. Everybody loves to go to Dallas, and that's a great game. But to me, the game where the Eagles fans should take over is Week 10, Monday, November 10th. And the chants should just start from the beginning and don't stop until the end. How do you like your tush push now? Whatever it's going to be, that is it. The comeuppance will be live and on national television, brought to you by ESPN.
Good stuff. I've never been to Lambeau. I rank that as.
You gotta go, Michael. It's great. It's like going to Yankee Stadium, only better. They play football there.
Yeah, I know. I got to get out there. I rank that as my number 1 road trip for this season. SoFi, I'll probably be out there in the Super Bowl in a couple of years, so I'll wait till that. But I got to go to Lambeau and check that out one time. All right, there you go. 4 losses, 5 losses, depending on what happens late in the year. That's our breakdown of the Eagles' 2025 schedule. Sal Paolantonio, of course, the matchup show, and at the national correspondent, ESPN, right here on the Sports Bash. All right, we'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay, thanks to Johnny G and the Griner team at Ocean City, New Jersey, at Berger Realty for supporting this fine program, and I'll see you down there on the boardwalk in Ocean City this summer, Michael.
All right, we'll see you soon. Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent, right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. There you go. We'll look at the schedule and the entire breakdown of all the games and how they're going to go. Now you know how the season's going to go out there. He has them 3-1 out of the chute. I have them 2-2. That 4 game in the middle, Denver, Giants, Minnesota, Giants. I have them winning all 4. So does he. So I have them 6-2 at the bye. He has them 7-1 at the bye. We both have a loss to Dallas in that the third quarter of games, and then the last quarter of games. It's hard because we don't know what's going to happen. We both have them kind of losing to Washington in one of those games there. So I have 5 losses. I think he has 4 losses there as the Eagles' schedule breaks down like that here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
So do you feel that Sal is more optimistic that you're more realistic? Like, what did you take
I always
away
feel
from
Sal's
the-
optimistic when
Okay.
it comes to this team, especially when they're really, really good. Yes, I mean, but he's not wrong about a lot. They're better than every one of these teams. If they lose one of these games, the only teams that I think, Kansas City's obviously right there. Buffalo's right there. Washington, they're all getting better. But you're better than Minnesota. You're better than Green Bay. You're
Right.
better than the Rams. If they beat you, it's an upset, but they can beat you. There's a lot of games Detroit, you can lose that game, but you're better than them.
Well, also, isn't part of it like with Green Bay, like you're on the road. Like there's the road factor to this stuff too, right?
I love his breakdown of that game, though. Just go there and
push the whole game.
All right, coming back, we got today's edition of Rye or Sigh next. What are we sighing at today? I got something I'm sighing at. Stick around. More Sports Bash coming up. At 528, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Follow us there. Be a part of the show. Text Sport all day, 609-403-0973. Had Keith Smith on earlier, talking about Sixers draft. Sal Pal giving us the breakdown on the Eagles schedule. Aaron Nola sighing at his performance last night. It's time for today's Rye or Sigh. What is on our minds today? I got a couple things I'm sighing about. By the way, I think both Bet365 plays of the day I hit last night on both of those. I gave you the Celtics. That's a winner last night. I gave you the T-Wolves. That was a winner last night. They were a double-digit favorite, and I said take them anyway. That's where I'm at. What's going on?
Nice, man. I like it. It's playoffs have been weird, just as far as, man, Minnesota takes care of them easily. You hate the injuries that have been involved, but yeah, I like those plays, man. Nice work. All right, so let's get to some size. First of all, I am sighing massively at the NFL schedule release hype videos. We have 32 teams now putting out hype videos for the schedule. It's like, here's our schedule. It's like, okay, I need 32 of these. I'm good. I'm sighing at that. Maybe I'm old man there, but
it's funny that, I saw the Bills one. I thought the one with Allen Iverson, I actually thought it was pretty clever. I thought they did a good job with it. Now,
there's some fun ones, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting there watching them all. I did see the whole AI, and I thought that one was cleverly done. Is that a word, cleverly?
Sure. I'm not.
We'll use it today.
Guy to ask.
I didn't even see the Eagles one. Did they do one that was good, or?
They did one. It was like a movie trailer, which I liked because it was simple. Some teams have like this 3-minute like Minecraft, like it's just over the top. The Eagles had like coming soon, and it was just the Eagles with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And then it had featuring, and it had every team that they're playing, which was cool.
Yeah, I don't I don't need them. I get it. There's people out there. They're creative. You're paying a full social media team. They better do something.
Right. It's a content world, and we're asking for it, so you're going to get it. But did you see real quick? Did you see the Colts had they had to come out with an apology with what they did with Tyreek Hill?
I heard they got in trouble. I don't know what for though. I didn't see the video.
They basically had a dolphin with a Hill jersey on in swimming, and then they were the police in a boat, and they pulled him over. And that was after the incident last year where he got in trouble. It was not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, all right. Yeah. Yeah. That's where like your social media team, they're getting themselves in trouble. Right?
Exactly. You want more content? You're going to get more apologies. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, let's get into it. I have 3 big takeaways for the Eagles' official schedule being released now, and I'll start with the Jalen Hurts take that I have, which is, man, I just look at this schedule, seen as the 6th hardest for whatever that's worth on May 15th. I say Hurts has a chance to assert himself now officially alongside Patrick Mahomes for the MVP conversation. His betting odds in the futures market, 20-1 right now, depending on where you look, 20-1 at DK. I look at this schedule and I say, man, a schedule that includes Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, if he has an opportunity to ball out, he's really asserting himself coming off that Super Bowl win.
Well, there's no question that this is an interesting year for him because there are still people who aren't sure what he is or what that, he kind of sits in the pantheon. He could come out, we were just talking about this with Sal Pal, Kevin Batula, the new coordinator, he is a pass game coordinator, so he has a passing game background. Is he going to go to the pass a little bit more? Now, Sal seems to think, week by week, yada, 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 but you don't want Saquon Barkley, does he have to run for 2,000 yards again? Do you want him to have the usage where he's running for 2,000 yards again? I think that's something they have to be considering.
Yeah, well, it's not about the yards. I know what you're saying, but it's more about the carries. Right? Yeah, we want him to get 2,000. Maybe he can do it on 80 less carries. I don't know, but
sure, if he busts it, if he gets 2,000 yards on 100 less carries, it just has this unbelievable. But I'm just saying, like, if he has a similar workload to last year, do they need him to be a 2,000-yard, like 350-yard carry back again? That is what I'm wondering.
I'll answer that. I think yes. Like, why not? I don't know. Do you look at last year and say, man, they ran him into the ground. Like I know he was running all over the place, ran for 2,000. I mean, he sat a bunch too.
He had a 300. I want to say he had about 350 carries last year. That's a sizable amount.
Sure, and especially when you win the Super Bowl, that's more games in the playoffs. I get it, but I'm saying I still think they had a nice balance. I don't think we need to be mindful of or saying we need to load manage.
All right, let me let me give you some perspective on this then. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Barkley had 345 carries in 16 games. He did not play the last game. Derrick Henry played 17 games and had 20 less carries. Kyron Williams was next. He played 16 games. He had 316 carries. Bijan Robinson had 304, but he played an extra game. Jonathan Taylor had 303. So he had, 20 more carries than the next guy and played a less game. So he did have one of the bigger workloads of the season.
Did he have the biggest?
He was number one. 345. Okay. He had 20 more than Derrick Henry had.
Crazy in 16 games. And like I just said, I don't look back. Maybe I'm just completely wrong here. I just don't feel like they ran him into the ground.
I'll tell you this. DeMarco Murray in 2014, he had 392 carries. He had 1,800 yards. We all know what happened to him the next year. He was a flat tire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's just expected a little bit. We should expect it. It's also Saquon. I trust the work that machine puts in, right? But it's a fair conversation. I don't know. Maybe Kevin Petula needs to go to the air a little bit more. And I think he should, he should and he can if he wants to. Why not? Especially if you have an MVP guy back there.
Well, and right, that's the thing. They have the weapons to be. It's not like it's you're throwing to Charles Johnson and Torrance Small. We can't throw the football. I mean, they do have the weapons to be able to throw the football. It just, I don't know. Do they look at themselves and say, for us to be a Super Bowl winning team and get through, look, this is a brutal schedule, by the way, that we're going to need Saquon Barkley to have another 350 carries. That's a lot to ask, man.
It is a lot to ask, but if that's their identity and that's what makes them most successful, I think my overall take is you do it. You do it for better or worse.
And keep in mind, they just signed him to that deal, so you want to keep him fresh for some more years too. Just keep that in the mix.
Well, yeah, I'll take another Super Bowl though. If there's some years that on the back end that cost it, but I don't know.
Right, I'll take the back-to-back if it means that. Right. I'm with you there.
Absolutely. All right. So I mean, that's an interesting. Obviously, it's always an interesting storyline. The quarterback in Philly, i.e., Jalen Hurts. But do you like the 20-1 odds, real quick, before I move on?
On Jalen Hurts, absolutely. Yeah, I'll take the 20-1 odds. I mean, I think it's good value to at least start the season. I'm not saying I think he's going to. Who else is in there ahead of him?
I don't have the full list ahead of me, honestly. It's Josh Allen's ahead of him. Mahomes is ahead of him. Jordan Love is slightly ahead of him. And Jaden Daniels slightly ahead of him last time I checked. I may have just nailed that off the top of my head, actually. But
Jaden Daniels, interesting. I'd probably go Hurts at 20-1. I like the value there. I'll play. I'm getting involved.
All right, so we just mentioned how tough the schedule is. I think it's the sixth toughest right now. 11.5 wins. That's their win total. What do you sigh at 11.5? I sort of look at this schedule. I sighed a little bit, and I say they go under 11.5. I would love to be wrong on that, but what say you?
Well, is that the number officially?
11.5, yeah.
Yeah, that's the number, 11.5. That's a lot. I mean, I don't know that I'm ever getting in on the action where 11.5, you have to get to 12 wins. You need a lot of things to go right to get to 12. And even though I think they can get there, I would probably go under. Anytime you're going up into the 12.5 number, or 11.5, I should say, I'm going to go under that number just because, it's hard to view a team winning 12 games, with that schedule. That's a tough schedule. Although, we just went through it. I have them winning what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then it's hard at the end because you don't know if those games are going to mean anything. And those games are tough. You got Washington twice in Buffalo. You could lose all 3 of those games.
Well, what do you have them? Are you saying what you have, or you're not saying what you have?
Yeah, I have them losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So what's that? 12 and 5.
All right, so you have the over. You have the over. There you go.
Well, that's if I'm right. I could be wrong. It happens.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I was just asking you what you had. You run through the schedule. I was just curious. So you had 12. I say slightly under at 11, but I hope it falls obviously on the over side. I think the most intriguing part of this schedule, you sort of just alluded to it, is the 2 out of the last 3 against the Washington Commanders, where the Josh Harris involvement now has only amped up this rivalry. Obviously, them getting better has only amped things up. And you hope that those 2 games are going to be for the division, which is absolutely awesome. Finally, they get that right.
Yeah, you're right about the Washington. The fact that you're playing, I've been mentioning this throughout the day, but you got to play the NFC runner-up and the AFC runner-up 3 straight weeks. I mean, that's 3 straight championship game level quality opponent. That's a rough go through there.
I don't see it. The only easy part of this schedule is very, very brief when you get the Giants 2 or 3. That is it.
I agree with that as well. In fact, we break it down into 4 4-game things. You got Dallas, Kansas City, Rams, Tampa, 3 playoff teams there, plus Dallas, a division game. You got Denver, Giants, Minnesota Giants. So you have 2 playoff teams in there. Green Bay and the Lions. So you got 2 playoff teams in that next group with Dallas and Chicago. And then the last quarter, you've got the Chargers, Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Washington. That is 4 out of 5 games that versus playoff teams.
It's like you look through this schedule and you say, all right, I'm trying to figure out a team that may have a letdown year, right? Because we always do this schedule thing in the springtime, and there's always teams that stunk the previous year that end up coming, and asserting themselves the following year that you don't expect, and vice versa. I can't see a team on this schedule that I'm saying, yeah, they were a playoff team, but
Minnesota.
Right?
Minnesota with the quarterback situation, I can see them taking a step back. I can see Denver maybe taking – now, keep in mind, a lot of the reasons why a team that goes from worst to first is because of the schedule and because every year you play a different group of divisions. So, like this year, the Eagles are playing the AFC West and the NFC North. That is 2 brutal divisions that you have to play. 6 of the 8 teams made the playoffs last year. But – if you're a team that gets to play the South Division, well, you're getting 4 games that are very winnable. So your record might look a lot better than you end up being.
No, absolutely. And, our division, the NFC East, besides the Giants, I would say the NFC East has gotten better now with Washington and Dallas always.
Well, and I think the Giants have gotten better. I think they're just still ways off the other 3.
Yeah, they just, the Eagles should very easily be able to take those 2 games. That's, That's
Agreed.
The overall look.
Agreed.
But, all right, yeah, those were the 3 things from the schedule I wanted to get to with you. Just Jalen Hurts perspective, the win total perspective, and division talk. The Eagles, I've gone a little bit heavy with the betting odds today for whatever reason, but Eagles are the betting favorite to win the East, and Washington is 2-1.
Do you sigh at the Black Friday game?
No, I don't know. Why do you sigh at it? Just the timing of it or what?
No, I don't mind it. I don't mind. I don't love playing on Black Friday. I like the fact that there's a game on, but I don't really love my team being in the game.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards that. I'd lean towards a slight, small sigh. But the only thing I do like about not playing on Sunday is having Sunday to just, all right, the Eagles aren't playing. I can just enjoy it.
Well, yeah, but that Black Friday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I remember last year I was running all over the place, and I did watch the game. It was Kansas City and I think the Raiders last year were the game, or maybe it was Denver and it was Kansas City, I could have sworn. The year before that, it was the Jets in Miami, and I felt like the game kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit because it's like a nice day, November, there's a lot going on, the Thanksgiving's the day before, so I don't know. It's not a game. Now, I wouldn't mind going to the game because then I wouldn't have to worry about going with all the yahoos out on the roads.
Yeah, well, exactly. That might be the move. That might be the move. Actually, we may have just stumbled on that. There we go.
Just go to that game. Yeah. You got Dallas and the Lions playing on both Christmas and Thanksgiving this year. You sign at that.
Yeah, I am sighing at that. It's a little bit much. We need to do less.
Now they're flipping. The Lions always play the early game on Thanksgiving, and Dallas plays the middle game. On Christmas, Dallas is playing the early game, and the Lions are playing the middle game.
I meant to bring this up with you the other day, but I think we were heavy into like Daryl Morey stuff, or I forget. But this is the first time this year, and I forget which teams, but you or Josh should be able to pull this up. Back-to-back weeks, they're playing in two different countries. Are
Minnesota.
You signing at that?
Yeah, Minnesota, they agreed to do it. They did ask them if they would do it. They did agree with it. No, I'm not signing with it because if I'm going to do it, I might as well not go and then come back. Just keep me over there.
Well, yeah, that's better compared to yes.
And they're both road games. They're not losing a home game.
That helps. That does help. I still think it's crazy that you're playing in two different countries.
I agree. But let me tell you, as somebody who went to a professional sporting event in another country, when I went to the Phillies Mets game in London, it was one of the greatest sports experiences of my life.
Sure. But that's, you're the minority. You're in the minority with that. It's an awesome opportunity for 40,000 people. But for fans of the team and stuff, great they're not losing a home game. It's just wild that you're now having NFL teams and two of the regular season games are not in America.
Yeah, well, listen, if you were somebody who wanted to go to Dublin, which I've been to before, and I highly recommend, it's a great time to go in whenever they're playing. I think it's October, to go to Dublin, to go check your team play. That's an unbelievable trip. And then London. Now, you got to maybe pick one or the other. I don't know that you're going to go to both of them if you're that's hard to do if you want to go see them both games. But I don't the only thing I guess would be if you live in Minnesota, those games are going to be on at 8:30 in the morning?
Early, yeah.
Yeah, because they're 9:30 here, so Minnesota would be Central Time. So for 2 straight weeks, you're getting an 8:30 in the morning football game. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Which one? Back in the day it was a sigh, but now, if you were out partying all night long,
games. I'm not saying I'm sleeping in. I'm just saying it's not football. It's not what we do. If we had 2 Eagles games this year at 8:30, yes, it's cool. Yes, it's different. Kegs and eggs. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's still just not. It's not American football. It's not what we do. All right.
No, the back-to-back 8:30 in the morning is a little bit of a sigh, I think, to get your football day. Although, the Eagles played that London game against somebody, Jacksonville, I guess, years ago.
Yeah, we did a show.
That was a blast. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, so it does provide different things to do, and it's awesome, but different, I guess.
All right. Listen, again, I went to the London game for the Phillies. I had an unbelievable experience. It was epic, man. That was one of the best sporting experiences I've ever been to. So I would love to see a game. Back-to-back weeks, maybe a little bit much, but, if I had the money and the time, I'd go to Dublin and then London and not even come home.
If I had the money and the time, you can fill in the blank for a lot of things there, my friend.
By the way, you look like you are caddying for the Masters. What's going on over there? What are you wearing?
It's just how the camera is. No,
okay.
Yeah.
You look like you have a caddy's outfit on with the green hat. You look like you're getting ready. You got the U.S. Open going on this week.
Yeah, man. It's
or PGA. Sorry, PGA.
PGA Championship down in Charlotte. Yeah, Quail
Gotcha. Yeah. I played golf on Monday. I was predictably awful.
Oh yeah, when you play once every 2 years, that's that sport is not very easy on you.
Predictably
play every day,
awful.
And it's horrible.
Yeah, I was pretty bad, man. Last year I played one time, and the day that I played, I was mediocre. It was probably the best I ever played in my life. I played 1 year later, and I was horrendous.
Yeah, if you can hit one good shot, it's enough.
I did. They used we played best ball for the LPGA Media Day, and they used my ball. I think we used my ball 3 times in 18 holes.
That's all you
Think about that. Think how bad that is.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Are you sighing tonight that the Phillies have a night off?
Yeah, I always sigh when they have a night off. It's like, come on, dude. You love watching them every night. Despite the struggles last with Nola, but
Yeah.
yeah, I hate when
Are
they're
you
off.
are you are you sighing at Nola, or do you have faith that he'll turn it around?
I'm not sighing mainly because I'm just tired of the Nola talk. I feel like this is every year. Well, Nola, this is it with Nola, blah blah blah, typical Nola. And it's like, you know what? The guy has stepped up for the most part in the playoffs. Like I'm out on the negativity with Nola.
Okay, I like that. All right, there you go. Today's Rye or Sigh. We'll do it again on a happy hour Friday tomorrow. Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right, we'll do it again tomorrow, Rye or Sigh, every day here on the Sports Bash. We'll wrap up the show with the Bet365 play of the day coming up next. All right, time now for the Bet365 Play of the Day. We gave you 2 winners last night, if my memory serves. Josh, how'd we do?
That is correct. You are now 165, 110, and 1.
165, 110, and 1. Good record, a lot of money, a lot of moolah. I gave you 2 winners last night in the NBA. Celtics, cha-ching. Minnesota, cha-ching. And tonight, OKC. That's the play. Tough one. Denver trying to keep this thing alive. But I think it is OKC's time. OKC will win and cover the game tonight. The line on the game. You ready for this? You ready for this line? Last night you probably thought I was crazy taking the Celtics 4-point favorite last night, right?
Well, yeah, because I thought the Knicks were going to win.
Exactly. But I had the information that you need. And the 10.5 spread I took the T-Wolves last night.
That was
Tonight,
more believable for me.
I got Oklahoma City 5.5. That's the number.
Good
On
number.
the road. I think they win, and I think they win by the 5.5. I'll take the Thunder tonight against the Nuggies.
All right, so real quick, gut reaction. OKC, Minnesota, Western Conference Finals. Who wins and why?
Oh, man, I like the Thunder. I'm pulling for the Thunder. You know why? Because I want the Hinkyites out there to win a title. I want to see a team that basically went through a process. I want the Tankapalooza, Oklahoma City Thunder. They tanked it up big time. I want to see a team that tanked, show that you can throw away seasons for no reason when you're stuck in mediocrity and you can hit. The Thunder are doing it right now. That's who I'm taking, the Thunder, to win it all. That's it for me. Do it again tomorrow on a happy hour Friday. Have a great night, everybody. See ya.